just so they could see me. Did what I had to do just to feed me, and what was left over I put towards my dreaming. But the only thing in life that has meaning are the things you gotta work for, believe me. Take into your hands a plan, your own hands can land your own brand. And damn, I feel like no one takes accountability. They want the credibility, convincingly unwilling to put in the fucking hours it takes to get some power. Don't be fucking sour, take a cold shower, scream until you're louder, work until you're prouder, and fuck all the doubters, they're just fucking downers. I swear to God they all let me down. I always fought just to wear the crown. I'm pissed off at these fucking clowns who were all taught they deserve an ounce. It's only worth it if you work for it. It's only worth it if you work for it. I won't stop till they hear me now. I won't stop till I wear the crown.
God, I love that song. What's up,
I know,
Susan?
that's awesome. I love your intro.
Woo, thank you. I can't wait to put that song to the intro you made for us, girl.
Oh, there we go. There we go.
So, Susan, I haven't seen you in a while. You've been a little busy.
Know.
You were on vacation. I missed you on a last podcast.
I know. Glad to be back, though. I took a little vacay. Needless to say, I was eaten alive by horseflies where I was. Wasn't pleasant at all.
Well, we missed you. I know a lot of my viewers missed you as well. What's up there, Dan Bruca? Hey, Exploring with Jason. Hello, Kiwi. Hello to all our subscribers and members.
Hello.
I love you all, my paranormal soldiers. So we're not going to waste any time today because the guest that we have coming on, Chris Houston, is somebody that I met 7 years ago when I got into the paranormal field, and I was privileged enough to be able to learn so much from Chris Houston, along with other people, Gavin Kelly, Shannon Humphreys, Jill Cole, Joel Myers. The list goes on, maybe a couple more people. Sorry, I forgot your name. And he's been very instrumental in the paranormal for me, even to this very day. If I were to call Chris and say, I need help with something in the paranormal, I can't figure this out, or what's going on here, Chris will always answer me. Chris is very truthful about if I think I captured something. He knows it's going to break my heart because it's not nothing, but he tells me what it is. And he's just, for me, a mentor and someone that I look up to and will always look up to. And I think that everyone in the paranormal needs somebody like that. Do you have someone like that, Susan, that you look up to and you can go to when you're having, like, is this paranormal? Is it not paranormal? What do I do?
I honestly, besides you, I do not.
Besides me, I feel special. Well, whatever I teach you, I'm learning from Chris and the other people I just mentioned. So hopefully one day, Stu, and I'm trying to arrange a podcast where I have the people who were instrumental and are still instrumental in my paranormal career, hobby, whatever everybody wants to call it these days. So unless you have anything to say, when's your show coming back on? Because you've been gone for a minute.
More than a minute, like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
I will be back on Wednesday evening at 5:30 Eastern time. And I'm going to have actually Diane, which is from Lurking Spirits Paranormal, on with me as my co-host.
Great. She's a great lady.
Yeah.
She's a great lady. Yeah. Hey, B Squared. What's up, Michelle? All right, guys. So we're going to get into this podcast because we have so much to ask Chris. Chris is an all-around. He's done everything you can think of in the paranormal. He's been to the Vatican. He's done a whole bunch of stuff. Travel Channel, Discovery, whole bunch of stuff. He's got a very interesting story of how he got involved in the paranormal. I believe it was when he was a kid, but it's very interesting. So to everybody in the comments, we love you. We see you. We will definitely talk to you after the show for a little bit. If you guys have any questions during the show, put them in the comments and we'll get to those questions. So with no further ado, drum roll, please. Chris Houston. What's up, Chris?
How y'all doing?
How are you?
So we're simulcasting, guys, ladies and gentlemen, through my network. I do No BS every Sunday at 7 o'clock. No BS is a little bit about everything, and it's a little bit crazy in the process. So we're going to do some pretty wild stuff this summer, just so you're aware. I'm editing videos that we're going to test some paranormal projects for you. I'm actually creating an EMF gun and a couple other things. So there's going to be some fun things. And we're also very highly political and a few other things. So we're playing around with a lot of things with no BS. It's a fun broadcast, not something people are used to seeing with me, but it gets to see my humorous side. So my people that are watching, awesome. This is Angelina and her partner.
My co-host Susan.
But it's a pleasure talking to you guys. It's been a while since I've had a chance to catch up with Angelina anyway. So
yeah, it's been since OSR 2021 or 2022. I think 2021. I know we went on St. Patty's Day. I know that. So, and it was a great time. So let's get right into this because we have tons of questions for you, Chris. So, and everybody look at the ticker, go follow everyone's pages. You can go follow Chris at the Bill of Rights Network, Born TV, at Rumble, and check him out. He does some amazing podcasts. He doesn't just do the paranormal. He also talks politics, and he's a very, very smart man. So go check him out. But real quickly, Chris, before we get into some questions, what brought you into the paranormal? Let's hear your story.
I was 6 years old. We moved into a new house. I was fascinated with the unusual anyway, but it turns out that this house from day one was highly haunted. Eventually, when I got to be about 17 years old, I was attacked by this haunted entity that changed my life a little bit, and it was a very traumatic experience. Still writing a book on it. It's been on TV a couple of times, although they cut the hell out of it. But
I still enjoyed it.
Made me realize that the paranormal is there. Your eyes kind of open up, okay? After you see this, everything looks different. Everything seems different. You start realizing, if this is real, then what if all this other stuff is real? What if vampires are real? What if werewolves are real? What if ghosts are real? What if UFOs are real? What if this is real? What if that is real? So it put me on a spiral of what ifs once I figured out that what happened to me was real. And I went through a bunch of stuff, so you guys know, in this haunted house. First, I thought it was crazy. Went to a psychiatrist. I kept telling the psychiatrist this shit was going on in my house. He said, we're going to prove it's not. I'm going to go to the house. He went to the house. I went to talk to the guy that was working on the construction for the home. The psychologist runs out of upstairs, runs out of the house and says, you don't need me. You need a priest. Don't ever contact me again. I don't want anything to fucking do with you. Excuse my term. And at that point, I went to the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church put me in touch with some very famous people. One of them was Lorraine Warren, who did come to my house. She was very old at the time, and unfortunately, her husband was very sick at the time. But she came to the home and wouldn't go into the house. She walked up to the house, and then my door slammed and my window slammed shut. And she put her hand on the home. She came out and she said, honey, this battle is not mine, it's yours. And I could walk in there and do something, but you're going to have to fight it on your own. I can guide you. I can send you to the right people. They can guide you. But this is something that you're going to have to fight, which was good advice because she was right. Eventually, I did get used to it. I did fight it. I got so used to it that I still have battles with this creature in Ohio. I've scared the piss out of people on investigations because every now and then he will pop up, and I know who he is. He knows who I am. I know his name. I won't give you the name. There's a reason behind that. Don't ever repeat a demon's name.
Okay, let's try it. Tell me a name. Let's do it 3 times in a row.
No, I could give you names, but I'm not going to.
No,
there is validity in a name. I don't know why. It goes on every cycle. Okay, it's not just the good, the bad. It's the good too. There's validity in a real name, and once that real name is identified, then it's not like you see in the movies. But these things also now realize you know who they are. They know who you are. And they will play around with you a little bit because of that. And if you're not ready for that battle, it's a very scary thing. Once you realize this, and I'm going to tell this to everybody because it's true. Once you realize this shit can't hurt you unless you want it to. You believe it's going to hurt you, it's going to hurt you. Otherwise, this shit can't touch you at all. Once you realize it, whether you believe in God and the devil, whether you believe in something else, whatever your faith is doesn't matter anymore. Once you believe that, you're good to go. but it takes a long time to realize all this and realize that some of this is up here, some of this is in here, and some of this is actually real.
Yeah, that's a very good point because I
Mhm.
remember one time living at Post Town, and I don't know if you remember this, Chris, but the gun shop next door got robbed, and they were looking for the kids that robbed the location, and they thought one of the kids was in the school. So here I am walking around the school with a knife, like I'm going to kill spirits or something, and continue to. But I understand what you're saying because there's been many times at the school I walked around with a weapon, thinking, "Are these spirits going to kill me? What's going on?" And it took me a couple years to realize they're not going to kill you. You're not going to die ghost hunting unless you're not paying attention to where the fuck you're walking and you hit a hole. But um, since your experience with that in your house, and you say that the person is still with you.
Oh, it's not a person.
Oh,
It's a
that's
thing.
even. Oh God.
It's a thing, and it's not with me. We had our battle. I won. No idea how. Faith of God, I guess. I'm religious. You don't have to be yourself. Everybody chooses their own path, and I'm okay with that. I've studied many religions, many paths, but I'm religious on my own. So I believe in God, and God is what saved me in that particular situation. And it knows that. I know that. So it's not like it's here every day, but I know how it operates. I know how it attacks. I know what it does. And I've been in contact with it multiple times, sometimes by accident, sometimes walking right in and, hey, it's just going to show its face and go, hey, that's Chris. And ironically, it will do that on spirit boxes, and it will jump from box to box. And I've scared real TV stars that have been with me that refuse to film with me again because they've never seen anything like that before. And this thing is highly evil in the classic sense. If you have something you're hiding, it will bring it out. It will tell you that. It will speak it out right on a spirit box, and nobody else knows about it but you. And it'll point it out to you. It'll say, hey, what about this? Don't forget about this. That's you, right?
Wow.
It's the very embodiment of what you would picture as evil.
Wow. So speaking of that, I know that you have been you interviewed the real head of the exorcism, at the Vatican. You got education at the Vatican.
It took 12 years to get there.
Yeah, did that help you with the thing that has not left you?
Yeah,
How did that play into it?
I've always had connections. So I was fascinated with how demonology really works because I've always had connections. I've read many, many religions and many books. I've done a lot of studies throughout the years. In fact, I'm so well informed that I know you can't see, but off to the right here, I've got books over here that nobody's ever seen before that are handwritten grimoriums and so forth from Lord knows where. Like, people just give them to me. But I've always been well versed in all of this stuff, so I was fascinated in how demonology really works. Because when you're watching this on TV, here's how it goes: demonologists support exorcists. They go in, they do exorcisms, yada yada yada. Right? Turns out that's not the way it really works. So it was a very great privilege to sit down and interview. And this interview may still be able to be found. It was actually on BBS radio through Paranormal Truth and Reality. It took 12 years to get there. I had done 5 phone conversations before that. I got invited to Rome at the Vatican to do it, but unfortunately that's a lot of money. So we decided to set up the interviews and get it approved, and it took a long time to get approved from there for him to stand there and tell the truth. And the truth is that demonology is the study of the word demon and the philosophy that revolves around the Catholic religion, right? Or any theology or religious base. That's all it is. So you spend your whole life studying how demons connect to the Bible and the Catholic theologies and the other theologies that are connected so that you can talk directly about it. It's books, right? Has nothing to do with what people think at all. And then once you study demonology, you can apply for the course of exorcism. There, at the time that I had interviewed them, there were 130 exorcists in the school. There were only 3 licensed or accepted to be in the United States of America. As far as I know, there's only 5 now. So all these people that claim to be exorcists and have schools of exorcism up here for the Catholic Church, they're full of shit. Just so you guys know, they're lying through their ass.
Yeah, because I'm seeing people taking courses, and they take like a 2-hour course, and they're demonologists 2 hours later.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, wow.
I've studied thousands of books. I can give you names and pictures and images of things that most people can't, and lead you in the right direction. And if I can't, I can make phone calls and get that information. And I can tell you right off the bat, I only have a quarter of knowledge from some of these demonologists that have been working with the Catholic Church and reading books that I can't even get my hands on. They're thousands of years old.
You'll get your hands on them. Tell me where they're at. You know I like to trespass. That's very interesting. Yeah, the demonology thing is kind of all over the place now. You got these fake paranormal investigators. I was attacked by a demon. I was scratched by a demon. A demon followed me home. And Chris and I, we have talked before about my Catholic religion and where that lays with me in the paranormal. And I'm not, leave the demon shit out is my opinion. Leave it out.
The odds of actually connecting or confronting a demon as defined by the Catholic Church is virtually impossible. You're talking about a less than 1% chance of ever encountering what the Catholic Church defines as a demon. Right. Now, I know this because some of the people I've worked with, they've made TV shows about. We're talking about real people that were real psychologists and real priests, some of them retired now. And believe it or not, at one point I worked with these people, not particularly some of the big ones, even though I talked to them, but some of the small ones and more. I worked with some of these people because I was the interviewer, right? My job was to go in and set up the cameras and read specific questions that were written down by the psychologists, the Catholic churches, and so forth to determine whether an exorcism or even an investigation was needed. Then I'd leave, never talk to them again. And that video conversation, when cameras were allowed, went straight out to whoever did the job. And in the old days, it wasn't like a bunch of teams and so forth. The Catholic Church picked very specific people, hired them for the job, and put them out there to basically prove that this wasn't evil. Not that it was. They wanted to make sure that to prove 100% there wasn't a demon there. Because exorcism is not what people think. Exorcism, sure, you can do it on a human being. Mm-hmm. But as I learned throughout this process by talking to one of the chief exorcists in Rome, it's primarily done as a practice or a ritual to make people's faith stronger. So they do more exorcisms based off of crops and towns and buildings and homes and so forth than they actually do a real person. Mm-hmm. And most people don't know that. They just assume exorcism, person, demon possession is what it is.
Yeah, most people don't know that because they don't study into it. You know, they just think I'm a paranormal investigator. I don't need to know anything about religion. I don't need to know anything about this and that and that. And sure the fuck you do. You need to know about science, religion, a whole bunch of shit. So before Susan asked a question, I think Kiwi USA has a good question that falls in line with this. And they said, question, what is your opinion of so-called exorcists and deliverance ministers in the U.S.? That's a great question.
The easiest way to answer that is I actually have a restraining order pressed against me from one of them.
Oh God, Chris.
I won't mention the guy's name, but he is a claimed exorcist. He has 2 daughters that are doing his job now, and I went directly after him, and I mean directly after him. I went to his church proceedings and confronted him with a mic in my hand, and came up with a bunch of other stuff, and eventually he basically just press a restraining order against me. A lot of these people that claim to be exorcists and deliverance specialists are lying through their damn teeth.
Yeah.
They're just like the old-fashioned evangelist, okay? An old-fashioned evangelist that's flying around in a plane and driving a Rolls Royce does not give a shit about God.
They just want you to put that money in that basket.
And I guarantee you they're the first ones out the door if they come across one.
Oh yes. Yes, it's just like all these other people that are paranormal investigators that claim that they handle demons and they do exorcisms and so forth. If you truly run across something, and I want people to think about this, all right? If these things are real and you believe in them, and I do believe in them to a certain point, you are an ant. Just like I would step on an anthill, they will step on you. Now imagine that big foot, not literally a hairy monster, standing in front of you, and he doesn't even have to, he or she or it doesn't even have to show its face. And it's already manipulated everything literally around you. Can throw shit at your head, knock you over, pick you up and float you across the room if it feels like it, bruise you, abuse you, do whatever it wants. Now, are you going to stand there or are you going to piss your pants and run?
Are you talking about a demon or P. Diddy? No, I totally understand that. I would run.
And basically, that's what these things are. They are almighty creatures that surpass the human race. And you've got good ones and you got evil ones, and that balance is really weird because both sides kind of see us strangely. Right. You know, even the good side that you would consider angels don't really see us the way they're portrayed and the way people talk about. So it becomes one of those situations when you confront something like this. Do you really want to confront it at all? Because I can tell you right now, the ones that I've confronted, they scared the hell out of me, and I don't scare that easy. And Angelina's seen me walk straight into things.
Oh yeah, yeah. Chris doesn't scare easily, but Chris will put you in a position and you don't know what's going on. And for me, you guys did that to me at OSR. And I should have known after knowing you for 7 years, why are they dragging me into solitaire? There's something behind this. They're specifically looking for me. But Chris does have no fear. And, through you and Gavin Kelly and Steve, I've learned to not have fear and find myself chasing things down. So he's right. He doesn't have any fear. And I think if you're going to have fear, you're not going to chase things down, or you're not going to ask questions or research or learn about things. You have no business in the paranormal. None whatsoever. But investigating with Chris goes for it. 1,000 million trillion %. It's a little...
I have my own ritual of things that I do. And one of them is I am not afraid of confrontation, because you learn confrontation throughout the years, if handled properly, works well. And that doesn't mean you go in and you just slam your face in front of something. But my basics are relatively simple. Everybody that's ever been with me hears at one point, look, you know who I am. I don't know who you are. You know what I'm capable of. I have no idea what you're capable of. So let's sit down here and talk, shall we? Because I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah. I remember the first time I heard you say that, I shit my pants. I'm like, what is going to happen tonight?
So
what I've got myself into.
Yeah, but I actually want to ask you. I hear that they thrive on people that are in fear or nervous or does not believe in like religion.
Depends on what you're dealing with.
And you always see like the TV shows where they have the cross and they have the holy water. Is that necessarily true?
Faith-driven situations, including sage and everything else, is a faith-driven situation. Now, what do I mean by this? You have to believe it's going to work for you. It has nothing to do with that cross. It has nothing to do with that sage. I can give you the scientific methods behind all of this stuff. Sage, by the way, the reason it's so big now is because it was designed to block the scent of the dead and help with the passing on early Celtic rituals, just like lavender and everything else. So, and this can be easily found. It just got twisted around because of modern media. And now everybody believes rubbing sage and going like this is going to get evil away. It's not going to if it doesn't want to go. And if you don't believe it's going to leave. Even the Catholic Church themselves and everybody else will tell you these practices are designed for your faith and your belief. So if you do not believe they're going to work, they will not work. If there is something there and you don't believe that it's going to work and you don't use your own faith to fight that, then it's going to remain. There's nothing you can do about that. There's nothing any other thing can do about that. And this is the thing people don't understand. They'll say, no, I can remove the demons in a home. I can remove the ghosts. I've heard people even say there's 17 or 20 or 30 in this place. How the hell do you know that? I mean, come on, let's be upfront here.
That's where all my food in the refrigerator is going too. Those 20 demons in my house.
And there's a portal that just lets them all come and go. Okay, guys, if there's a portal that lets them all come and go, how come I can set up scientific equipment and I can't pick up shit here? I mean, you are talking about theoretically a black hole, people. I should be able to pick this up. Scientifically speaking, there should be some sort of radioactivity or scientific response that I can pick up that shows that you've got this open hole to another dimension. What you're saying is just a bunch of hoopla nonsense that people made up throughout the years. But the faith, the idealism, the want to remove that evil has always been a part of our society, and it always will be. So whatever faith you have, if you believe that's going to work and you bring the right people into the home for your faith-driven idealism to remove that evil, you got a good chance it's going to go away.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. That's why I always tell people, like, Angelina, you should carry stones. You should have this. You should have that. And I'm like, no, I trust in my faith. I trust in God. And I trust in myself. And only I can conquer my fears. Only I can walk that path that I'm afraid to walk. I can lean on God. But is it really God doing it for me? No, I'm the one taking the footsteps. I'm the one doing that. I just know in my mind that I have someone there to protect me if need be.
Well, that's the thing. It doesn't matter what faith you have. I know people push God and the devil, and all this other stuff. But an American Indian that I had met on a reservation said it the best, and that is that you have control of what you want to do, just like we have control of who we contact when we speak to our spirits. Our spirits are here to guide us because we have always been in control, not to tell us what to do in the first place. So your faith will help you win or lose. Yeah. And it makes perfect sense. Doesn't matter whether it's God, doesn't matter whether it's Wicca, doesn't matter what it is. I believe in God. That doesn't mean I have to push that on you. Whatever faith works is whatever faith works.
So what do you think about in the paranormal, like people who go in and, like me, for instance, the struggle I went through. I'm Catholic. Well, then what the hell are you doing here? People base it on you shouldn't be in the paranormal because you're Catholic, and here's what the Catholic Church says.
Yeah,
but
I still get shit to this day 7 years later.
But it doesn't. I was Baptist my whole life, and I've had Baptist people tell me the same thing. You're evil. Why are you doing this? Blah 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 blah. The Bible does not say anywhere that you are not able to investigate these things and figure out what's right and what's wrong. What it does say is beware conferring with ghosts or things that are paranormal, and they use another word for it because not all of those things will be honest but evil. Now, the Bible does say that. It words it a little differently, but it does say beware of who you contact because what you contact may not be what you expect. But it also has verses in that same religious Bible of people speaking to ghosts and angels and demons and regularly conferring with angels, by the way, and demons. So it doesn't tell you can't. It's just that human beings tell you can't.
I know for me in the Catholic religion, I got I asked permission, but I got a very stern warning about what I was about to do. Just a stern warning. There was no, there was no trying to talk me out of it. Just a very stern warning about things. And I don't want to get into it because I get a lot of shit about it, but the Catholic Church didn't tell me not to do it.
When you play around with evil, somewhere along the line, evil will bite you in your ass. This is just the way it is. The Catholic Church tells you the same thing. They hire people like me and thousands of other people throughout the years to debunk things. They don't want it to be a demon. They want the person that claims this or the situation that claims this to be false or wrong. They're not out looking to be this almighty church that goes and casts away demons. They're as scared of them as we are in most cases. But a lot of people don't understand that that's not what this is about. This is about getting to the bottom of things. This is about figuring out things. This is about finding those links and realities that go beyond the theology, beyond the belief systems, and may actually explain what's really going on. And are there other dimensions? Do you die? What happens when you die? Where does that energy from the brain go? Is it quantum related? Is it not quantum related? And science is catching up with all of this stuff. People just choose not to realize that. They'd rather see a dust bunny and call it an orb with a face in it, or think that Ouija boards actually call demons, and all this other stuff. And guys, I'm going to tell you, all of that is bullshit.
Yeah.
It's what you put into it.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't matter whether you use, as an example, it doesn't matter whether you use a Ouija board or you just stand in a room and do it or talk to somebody or so forth. If you expect evil to show up and evil is there and you want it to show up, guess what evil is going to do? Show up.
Isn't that kind of the same as manifesting your own fears?
It can be.
I was going to ask that. Yeah.
It can be. It can
because
be.
a lot of the times I still think like, did that really happen to me, or did I manifest something so much that happened to me? Like,
well, manifesting evil,
I think, plays a big part in
manifestation of evil is a major situation. It always has been throughout the years of history. The one thing that other people don't understand is when you build up something. Let's use a Ouija board as an example. When you build up a Ouija board as conjuring evil, it's just like going into a place. And I can tell you, because this is how I got into paranormal TV in the first place, and something you guys will see here in a little while on a new show. I've got 6 episodes, and my job is to explain exactly the reality of the paranormal. You can lead that situation. You can walk into a group of people at a haunted place. I've done it at Post Town, and you can lead the conversation, and everybody will think there's a ghost in that room. Here's a newsflash. There's no ghost in that room. I created it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And people do that all the time. They manifest what they want to see, and they create it. And there's a telekinetic ability with human beings when you get together where you can build and manifest that so largely that things will happen in that room. You may make it happen. You may not make it happen. But the mind is a fascinating place.
Mm-hmm.
And when utilized and connected with other minds that believe the same thing, it does phenomenal things. In sales, the first thing that we learned was how to utilize that. If I'm speaking in a room with 100 people and I want all of you to believe you're going to succeed, and I use the right gestures and the right hand movements, and I speak the right way, guess what happens? Everybody believes it's going to happen. And the room is filled full of energy and amazing things happen. Now take the opposite of that and go into a telemarketing room, which I teach all the time. And one person has a bad day and it spreads. And now your computers are failing and everybody's bitching and they're having a terrible day and 14 people get fired and it's awful. And guess what? That's all because you manifested hatred and having a bad day. And you took it out and the computers blew up and the lights didn't work and people got fired. This is real. It happens.
Mm-hmm.
It's very easy to manifest things and create them and believe them. And a lot of our myths are done that way. Ouija board is a myth. The hanging tree is a myth. Are you
talking about the hanging tree in New Jersey?
There's a hanging tree in every state.
I was going to say there's one everywhere.
Yeah. The white lady. These are all the black-eyed children, BEKs, BECs. Everybody believes in black-eyed children. You know it's fake, right?
Yeah, I even watched a documentary about where the black-eyed children portraits came from.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, wow. But I had never seen that or heard about that in the paranormal. It was just something that I saw. But I do believe that we manifest our own fears in things. Sometimes I think I've manifested things on an investigation. And I'm like, no. I saw that, or I think I saw that because I studied on that so fucking hard, and that's all that's in my mind. So I know what I saw, but I didn't see
it is really tough to go into a situation with a blank slate. That's why every place I go that's not famous like OSR, I tell people I don't want to know anything about this place. Don't give me anything. I want to walk through it. I don't want to know anything about it. And let me see if I pick up on anything, if I see anything, if I feel anything. And ironically, the more people that claim to be empaths or psychic mediums that walk through it with me at the same time, I can pick up on more because because of all that positive and negative things and the way it connects with the mind and so forth. So if you're told a house is haunted, as an example, you go in believing that house is haunted. Now all it takes is just a few leadways, and you experience that haunted experience, whether it exists or not. And now all you need.
Sorry.
Go ahead. Now all you need is a couple of tools after that, and the tools to go off at the right time. And hey, look, I'm communicating with a ghost. Yeah, no, you're communicating with your cell phone, dude.
Yeah, right. I just did a video on that power of suggestion, and it's a very strong thing. And you taught me about the power of suggestion, you know, and I have stuck with that for 7 years, and I actually told myself.
I actually showed it to you the first time we were there. I told you about the power of suggestion. I said, now, when we go out here, I want you to watch.
Yes, you did.
I want you to watch Gavin and Joe, because I'm going to walk in and I'm going to place the idea in their head, and it's going to happen. And then we walked out and they set up all the equipment, and I placed the idea in their head that there was a ghost in that room and that they were going to interact with it, and then just watched it all happen.
That was,
Because,
God, that was, wow. I just remembered that. That was a very good example, though. And that's what I'm talking about. Like, people like Chris and other people are people I'm always going to look up to in the paranormal and continue to learn from. But yeah, that was funny, especially, you know, with devices. I remember one time we were using the ghost meter, and Chris kept saying, Angelina, it's your phone. And I'm like, no, it's not. No, it's not. No, it's not. And I'm only like, a month into it. And we found out it wasn't my phone, but it was something underneath the floor, like some wires or something, or some whatever running through it. Do you remember that, Chris, when we had the ghost meter by the red room?
The electrical conduit below the room.
Yeah.
We found that out. We realized that because the puck, everybody's seen a paranormal puck, right? It's supposed to go off when somebody comes to it. It's got the antenna that comes up. Well, Joel and I had realized that the puck will go off because of laser lights on a camera. So this puck kept going off in the hallway past the red room, but post-town security camera was making it go off because it had this little laser light that was making it go off. Every time somebody walked by, the laser light would turn on, the puck would go off. And it was very sensitive. So we moved the puck. We put the puck right on top of where Angelina's device kept going off. And the device went crazy. Take the puck off, move it somewhere else, it wouldn't. Put it right back there, go off like crazy.
Yeah.
So we started looking, and we did the research and found out there's a conduit that goes under there. And the conduit's got that old piping that they used to run electrical wire in that he'd never changed out. So it was bleeding out and making things go off, which is pretty common. But it was kind of cool to I love doing that on investigations. It's kind of cool to realize I just debunked the shit out of that.
and that's where my debunking came from. Like when Chris did that, because it broke my heart, I thought there was ghost. I was only a month into it, maybe a month. And I was like, this motherfucker, he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. But as he explained it, I'm like, oh, he does know what he's talking about. He is correct. I know that there's a circuit board right there in that room that's got to be running underneath here. And that's where I first started to learn to debunk, was that night. And I debunked everything that I think I see on the spot all the time. And it's crucial. I learned that night that that's a very crucial thing to do. So for all you people out there who hate the fact that I debunk so much in my videos, blame it on Chris Houston.
Yeah. And that's the thing. When I started my group, 15 or 20 years ago, there was no debunking at all. Any little sound that we heard or any little video snitch or anything like that, it was paranormal. So, yeah.
I'm fortunate that I didn't go into the paranormal like that, and I met the right people to say nope. And you guys threw a lot of shit at me, a lot of shit all the time.
You were asking a lot of questions, though. I mean, you were really in depth, and when you're asking questions with me, I get in depth because science is key in everything paranormal related. People don't understand that. Everybody says, "Oh, well, science can't explain everything, Chris." That's true. But it's the base bone for everything that we do and understand, including, believe it or not, theology and religion. So you have to have the scientific base, and a part of the scientific base is understanding how the equipment works and then going beyond this to understand how you get your results to find out what is paranormal. That's why I told Andrew, she asked me the first day, she's like, all right, what would be your perfect investigation? I said, to be honest with you, sitting behind those computers over there, setting up sound bouncing devices all through these hallways, setting up weather control devices and temperature control devices in and outside the building, on top of the building. And she's like, why? Because while you're out there asking questions, I'm watching all these spikes and seeing if anything relates. And if I could get correlation in those spikes, because I did all those readings through science and I can't explain it, by God, there's something there.
And Chris will go into the deepest, darkest hole to debunk something. It could have spiders, Bigfoot. Him and Joel Myers are just in it. Like that's crazy. Susan, do you have any questions? We got a lot.
Yeah, we do have a lot. So let's talk about the behind the scenes. So what's the most memorable experience you had while filming a paranormal TV series?
Ooh, good question. I don't even know that.
While filming a series? I'll give you two of them. One of them was while filming a show that you guys are very familiar with, but I was setting up to do the body shoot at Waverly. So that several people could go in later. So my job when I was doing cameras, so you guys are aware, is I was what was called the B crew. So what we did is we set up cameras before the stars got there. We set up all the wiring so that they could plug in their own cameras so that the camera guys behind them could get all the perfect shots. And then we ran. So my job was to figure out how to film this body shoot and get the long extended shoots while setting up these cameras and getting the right angles and making sure the night vision worked and so forth. So I know the body shoot has a lot of echoes, and I've debunked it 1,000 times since then. But being the first time that I was there and setting up the cameras, going all the way down the chute, no wires, and making sure things are stable, I get about halfway down the chute, and I literally heard something go the fuck away. And then I heard something thrown at me. I'm like, well, that's weird. Maybe it's coming from the end of the chute. I go down a little bit further, and I get all the way as far down as we can get to set the camera shooting up, so you can see the camera shooting up and the camera shooting down. I start walking back up, and I find this old rusty hammer. So I drag the old rusty hammer up. I hand it off, and I say, this is in here. I don't know how it got there. And apparently it was from a maintenance guy who had fell and hurt himself that had died later in a hospital, yada, yada, yada. They've been looking for the hammer for years. The hammer's mentioned in the show, but they don't get into a lot of detail on why. But it was a unique experience because I heard that, and it just kind of shocked me. It's the only thing I got at Waverly, by the way. I've never got anything else at Waverly. But the most memorable thing that I got was, believe it or not filming for a major show, but filming for Gavin Kelly. We went to Octagon Hall, Joel and I, and we were setting up cameras. And Gavin wasn't there yet, but Brandon was there. And we started our investigation. Gavin's supposed to come in the day after. Joel and I are doing the investigation with Brandon first, and we're meeting up with Gavin and helping him film. And so we got there early. We're setting up these cameras. Shannon's team is there, by the way. And Shannon's team is upstairs, and they swear to God this rocking chair is going back and forth. Back and forth. All of a sudden, there's this little girl up there. So Joel and I, being Joel and I, we're going to debunk this shit right off the bat. Let's get those cameras against that chair. Let's make sure that it just looks like that chair is rocking. So we bring our cameras in. Everybody's outside. We start to walk up the steps, and of course, we film everything. We don't ever stop filming when we're in a location. The moment we're in, we hit record, and everything's recording.
Oh yes, Chris has that camera in your face the whole damn time.
So we're recording this, and Joel's about ready to go up the stairs, and he goes, I'm coming up the stairs, guys. And then we hear this woman's voice go, hello, as we're walking up the stairs. And then Joel's eyes get this big. And he goes, did you hear that? I'm like, I did. That's the shit. And then I walk upstairs to see if somebody's downstairs. And I said, and I look over the edge while Joe's still got the cameras running. I look over the edge to see if maybe Brandon's under the stairs or something, or one of the girls. And I said, are you guys still outside, or is that you? And I feel the breath in my ear of a man that goes, no. And Joel gets that. And he's like, holy shit, Chris, did you hear that? I'm like, it did. I did. So we set up the cameras, and we start walking down the stairs, and he's like, I'm leaving now. And you hear the lady go, goodbye.
Wow.
And you hear the guy laugh. And it was classic Class A. So the next day, we come back for Gavin Kelly to film. And we gotten all this, and we were excited about this. And Joel and I do these crazy things throughout the night that even Gavin can't believe. But during this process, while we're setting up again, we're setting up Gavin's cameras, and we're helping Paula wire and so forth. And they're all outside. And Joel goes, so this is where they had the diner table. I wonder if they ever, just invite people in, or do they just come in? And we start hearing the front door rattle as if somebody's trying to come in. And we look over, and the doorknob is turning. But the chain is still on there, and the door opens up. So we thought it was Gavin. And here we go out and look, and Gavin's clear out there in the back getting shots for the barn. He's like, what? So we watched this happen. Joel comes back in and goes, you could have just asked to come in, and I would have let you in. And we automatically got the camera going, thank you.
Yeah. Wow.
As a Class A EVP, it was amazing. Getting a Class A EVP that clear is impossible. But Octagon Hall has impressed me every time I've been there.
Yeah, Octagon Hall I went there with Shannon and her team, and boy, the minute we crossed that threshold, it did not stop all night long. We didn't have time to do baseline checks. We didn't have time to set up cameras. We didn't have time to do shit because it just started. And we got a ball that moved in Mary Elizabeth's room. I still question that to this day. Like, there's no way. There's no way. There's no way. But that place is amazing. It's just
the little
amazing.
girl could have been playing with that ball. Jill and I were up in that room. I still have the video. And Jill, I said, the little girl, the last time we were up here, somebody said that she'd like to be read to. So Jill's like, okay, would you like to be read to? She started reading, and you could hear the girl following along with her and talking to her in the whole 9 yards on this camera. We didn't hear anything except for thank you when Jill left. But then we play this back, and you could hear the little girl sitting right beside her, even reciting some of the things that and I'm like, this is really cool.
It's totally one of the best places I've ever been. And you know how they talk about the outside kitchen and how the slaves back then had to whistle on their way in so that the Caldwells knew that they weren't eating their food. Well, we had brought a friend as an experiment who's African American, and I know a lot of people don't know about Octagon Hall, but you do, Chris. He literally stayed in the part of the basement where the slaves worked in the leather shop. He stayed there the whole night with a smile on his face, with all of us going through hell back and forth all over the place. And we would ask questions and we'd get answers like, leave him alone, get away from him, because he had an ovulus in his hand. And we're just like, wow. It was a crazy, crazy night. So it's just nuts. It's just nuts. Go ahead, Susan, because now you got me thinking.
No, I would love to go there.
It's definitely worth going to. I've never experienced so much activity ever. Like I said, we did the ball thing because Shannon had seen that happen before. They caught it on camera, but this time we did it and we caught it with our physical eyes. And I still question it to this day. We had 2 camera angles. Nobody was sitting close to the balls. We jumped up and down. We did all this stuff. And it's just like, wow, We
also tailgated. There's a prison in Kentucky that brews moonshine now. I can't remember what the name of it is. But we tailgated after Ghost Adventures had been in there. And I will tell you, I got a hell of an experience. I got a hell of an experience out of it, though. I used Katie's box. Katie Stafford, if you guys don't know, is a inventor. He did 1 year on television. Brilliant inventor, by the way. He created an ultimate ghost box where you can just leave an open frequency. So we play just dead air. We don't go through the cycles like everybody. We just put it on dead air. And we were sitting up in what they called the asylum room, where they took the patients for a while that were the craziest and put them in the rubber rooms and kept an eye on them. And Joel and one of the ghost sisters were going through this room. And I'm sitting there with the box, and I'm just sitting outside, just listening to the box, not doing anything, wasn't expecting to respond to anything. They go through the front door, and the box goes, tell the bitch to get out. And I went, okay, are you talking to me? And it came back and said, no, dipshit. And I said, guys, there's something here that's telling the girl she should get out. You should probably listen. And they walk a little bit. Joel's like, okay. And she's like, okay. And they get a little further. And he's like, God damn it. She's not getting out and it's pissing me off. And I said, okay, well, let me tell her again. Hey, guys, there's something on this box I can't explain. And he's talking to me and he's telling you to get out. And this is pretty freaky. So you should, maybe not go in there. So they continue to go. And he's like, it's really pissing me off. I'm like, I know. But I told him, you heard me. He's like, I know you did. I know you did. But they're not going to like what I'm going to do if they keep coming. And I'm sitting there looking at this box the whole time. Ironically, I had the camera facing the other direction, so it wasn't facing the box at the time. It picks up this audio, so if I play the audio back, people can debunk it and go, well, that's just somebody talking with somebody talking. But I'm looking at this box going, how the hell is this going on? And am I going crazy here? Because I'm talking to somebody that's dead. So they get far enough out, and then she gets pushed immediately. She gets pushed against the wall, and she freaks out, and she comes back out. Joel being Joel goes in a little bit further, and then the guy says, I ain't got nothing wrong with him, but he seems a little pansy.
Did he have a hair bun that day? Did he have his bun? His man bun?
He had just cut off his man bun,
okay.
ironically. And I said, okay, Joel, he doesn't have a problem with you, but apparently you're a pansy. And Joel started laughing his butt off.
That's funny. We got to get Joel on here. Joe's great. So, Chris, what methodologies do you study and use to document your paranormal activity?
Oh gosh, that's a crazy question because it goes.
I know.
It goes all over the place for me. It depends on what you're doing. I have a whole library that's theological driven on this bad boy over here. I know you can't really see him very well, but it's got 5 terabit drive, and I've uploaded basically everything I can from the Catholic Church and everywhere for theology. So it depends on each situation. If you're looking into what could be related to demonology, I could probably give you the basic information and put you in the right direction. However, scientifically based, it's a little bit different. So scientifically speaking, when I am out on any location, the first thing I do is try to figure out everything I can to realistically explain every situation. And unfortunately, you can't do this when you're on a regular investigation with other people because you just can't bring in all the equipment. Although Gavin does bring in a shitload of equipment.
I mean, U-Haul size equipment. I remember him putting it through the window at Post Town for hours. And I'm like, what the hell?
But I need thermal rod detectors, and I need, wind detectors and all kinds of other crazy stuff. So I would be going in looking. People would be looking at me weird because I'm tacking something on this wall, and 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 then I'm setting up a dozen computers, and we're looking at thermal radiation, and we're looking at all this other stuff. Since you can't do that, you got to kind of take a back approach psychologically on this stuff, and you got to do a lot of research. So I have on the opposite side over here, I have psychological books, and where I've talked to doctors throughout the years to explain every psychological situation, and I have speed dial on a lot of doctors to try to explain things that most people wouldn't just write off as paranormal. And then after all of that's done, you got to kind of do your own theoretical testing. So that depends on each situation. For years, I did spectrum light testing. My idealism is if I'm going to affect something in the paranormal, then I should be able to use it by spectrum light, right? If I can use different tones of light, different idealisms of light, different cameras with light, and different flashes of light, at different speeds, then is that going to affect your mind? Is it going to affect the area? Are we going to get more reaction? Are we going to get less reaction? What's going to happen here? So that's one of the tests we do. Audio testing is the same way. Is it plausible during different audio pitches and frequencies to pick up things that most people can't? And in return, if I play back those frequencies, am I going to disturb more than the human ear? So, these are the things that it's hard to explain one logical situation because you go in with a blank slate, you observe the situation, and then you try to figure out what's going to work best. And you may have to come back multiple times in order to do that, to figure out what's going to scientifically work, or theology, what theologically is going to work. The easiest way to explain this to people and suggest this to people is if you're going to go in, whether it's your first investigation or last investigation, just like I told Angelina on her first investigation, go in with your mind blank. Mm-hmm. I don't want you to bring any equipment. I don't want you to bring any cameras. I don't want you to bring any recorders. I want you to go in with a blank mind and the understanding that this may all be bullshit. and I want you to watch. And that's it. Just observe with that open mind.
Yep.
Now, you may witness something, you may not. You may realize, like a lot of people have done in the past, is if you go in through a group investigation where we just had a convention, you're going, man, this was fun, but Lord have mercy, these people are crazy. Or you may go into a personal investigation and come back and go, that was the wildest thing I've ever experienced in my life, and now I'm a believer.
Yeah. I still do that to this day. I still do that. And it's not an easy thing to do. It's hard to do because you really got to clear that mind, and you got to stop those questions from coming in. Is this about to happen? If I look over there, will I see something? It took me a while, but it's very instrumental in what I do and how I investigate to this very day. So very, very good point. People should really do what you said. I'm going to make Susan do it the next time we go investigate.
Well, I usually just bring in the basics when I'm investigating by myself. I mean, I basically have a voice recorder, an EMF reader, and a camera. And even then, that's basic that I bring.
You know, the only time I use an EMF reader is about 2 to 4 hours before the investigation even starts. I will get base readings of
the readings and everything
to remember to know exactly where the electrical boxes are and stuff like that. Then I throw it in the trash. It's just like spirit boxes. Unless somebody else brings a spirit box, I don't use it. That EVP recorder is all you need to know. I've been in a Faraday cage, guys, with an EVP recorder doing scientific testing. One of my mentors worked with the guy that originally told the story that made a movie and so forth, that about how these EVP recordings can really get to you. And he was also one of the people that first started the scientific testing with the fuzz on TVs. But I built my own Faraday cage. I worked with EVP recordings. And this Faraday cage, I can tell you right now, the audio signals from a radio is not going to get in there. Nothing's going to get in there. And I played that recorder, and that recorder scared the shit out of me because it said things it should not have known. And I have no idea where the voice came from. So these things can be real. The question is where they come from. And when you're doing all of this, the next key you want to remember is quantum physics is not as far off base as you think. Science is right there, and it does answer those questions. Everything is based off of molecules, and everything is connected, and everything is designed, including the human brain and what happens next. And the multiple dimensions involved in that and so forth are all connected in this process. And these are things I talk about all the time. I go to universities and talk about. These are why I back people that claim they have psychic powers at times, psychic mediums and so forth. One of my best friends, Lori Johnson, I know some people are controversial with her, but I'll tell you what, you want to talk about a psychic medium? That woman, when she's on key, is freaking on key. Now, when she's off key for you, but she may be on key for the person right next to you. Because she's the first one that tells you, you know, it's not an exact science. It's not the way it works. We just kind of get things, and this is the way it is. I can't tell you where it's coming from. I can just guess. But all of that's connected. All of it's connected through quantum physics. But
I remember Lori Johnson, now that you mentioned her.
Well, I love Lori. We've been trying to do a project together for a long time, and we just haven't really got together for it. But Lori's amazing.
I remember doing an interview with Daryl at Post Town during the state Post Town time, and I didn't even know she had abilities. She's not someone that goes and flaunts it and throws it all out there like the people do, you know, nowadays. I'm a psychic. I'm a ESP. I'm a this. I'm a that. I'm like, you're full of shit. Like, you know me. I still am skeptical about mediums. I just can't.
She's an amazing lady. She knew.
She's a very nice lady.
She knew and was in contact with somebody that was very special to me that died in a car accident years ago. That I blamed myself for. Told me she was in the room. And then remote viewed my whole house, went into a bedroom that I won't get into all the detail, was wrecking. Basically said, honey, you need to wash those clothes and pick that goddamn bedroom up. And was explaining things in my house. And I've never shown anybody my house outside of my room that I talk on, explaining things in my home. I mean, she was just amazing. I'm like, there's no way that she could have known all this stuff because it's all personal. And I'm a big one. Ron Cross, me, Mike N., and several other TV figures at the time had put up a $10,000 reward to a psychic medium that could get above that 70% score.
Wow.
Nobody ever took it, which proved to us at the time there were no psychic mediums. Because if you're so positive on your powers, why wouldn't you take a free $10,000?
So that brings me to Cody and Satori. If you can talk to spirits, and we're trying to prove that there is life after death, why are you not taking Kenny Biddle's $500,000 challenge? Now, my question to you is, Chris, do you believe in Satori and Cody?
I believe they're great at putting on a show.
Okay, good. You got quiet, so I was getting a little nervous. I was about to go, oh, show's ending.
Well, the thing you have to realize about personalities in television is they're all great people. But let's just be honest here. Just like myself, when I am hired to put on a show, the job is to put on a show. Let's just be upfront about that. The only difference between me and everybody else, and the reason you don't see me on many TV shows, is because I'm very specific. This is who I am, and this is what I believe, and this is what I will do for you. And that means that I'm not as fake as a lot of people that are out there. I'll still put on a damn good show for you. But I'm not going to stand there and literally tell you that I'm talking to a ghost if I'm not talking to a ghost. Hell, I'm the first person to tell you, scientifically speaking, we don't even know what the shit a ghost is. We say we do because media has defined it as somebody that's dead. But do you really know it's somebody that's dead?
Right. Good point, Chris. Good point, Chris. This is why I still talk to you, because you make sense of shit. Like, it's crazy. Any questions, Susan?
It's not on the agenda of questions, but I want to ask you, Chris.
That's okay. We can go off the agenda.
I want to ask you, Chris, do you believe in portals?
Ooh.
No. Now, I believe we can create connections that will invite things that are already in heightened areas. And they may seem like portals. As an example, I was with a team at the Bel Air house. They claimed that the upstairs attic is the most dangerous place in the world, and don't ever be there by yourself alone. So what did I do? Went up there alone, right? Me and my cameraman. And I did my spiel, and I walked around, and nothing happened. And I said, hey, you know what? You guys must not really be that talkative. I don't believe that they're telling the truth. Well, apparently they had cameras in there, and they had caught these little holes that were popping up and these little things that look like weird faces sticking out. And the first thing they said is, hey, you know what? Everything was going crazy down here, but I want you to see this. You were walking up there and you said nothing happened, but check this out. They showed it to me and they said, what is that? I'm like, oh, I could explain that, but it's going to take a lot of work. Basically, those are curious little monsters, and they don't come from here, but they will pop out and they'll be a little mischievous. Think of them kind of like gremlins, right? So they have to come from somewhere, and that is I brought that on. I opened that up, kind of like your own manifestation, right? I asked for it. I created the energy to do it, and then they had the ability to show up. But the traditional portal, as people explain it, right, is not true. And how do I know that? Well, a portal in the traditional intensity, explain it, is basically a miniature black hole. Mm-hmm. It is a breakthrough in multiple dimensions that allows an opening that things can go through. Think of it like a doorway, right? So if you open that doorway, one thing can't go through, everything can go through, and you can go through it as well. So that means that I should be able to scientifically pick it up. It also means that the United States government would have already picked it up. So you're claiming in this haunted house there's this big portal to hell and thousands of demons are coming out. So why has the military not roped it off and knocked at your door? Because it's not there.
I never thought about that.
Because it's not there. But
I never believed in portals, but
we can make connections. And again, when you go back to quantum physics, there are also weak and open areas. So think of it like your wave theory. If all these waves are moving back and forth, eventually a wave will interact with another wave, and you will have a weak area where they're overlapping. That overlapping can cause multiple things, including temporary doorways, where you can go back in time, forward in time, see other things, possibly interact with things, and so forth. And this is all quantum science. It's all provable in the math. And we have theoretically picked up on things for brief periods in time that we believe are those little hiccups where radioactive interference has kicked in and other things have happened. So a lot of times that's what your confusion is. There is no magic portal to demons that are opening up and demons are flooding through. You know why there's not? Because you can't walk through it too. Now,
Did that satisfy you?
Well, the thing is, like, a lot of people have theories that the reason why we don't see Bigfoot or we don't see Mothman or other mythical creatures is because they're able to go through portals and come and go into our world when they please.
Now, again, that's a little different. So let's talk about this a little bit.
Yeah, that's a confusion.
If you're an almighty creature that lives outside of our quantum realm, are you capable of jumping into and out of that quantum realm? Theoretically, yes. But it's not quite the way you think. So that realm, you'd have to have a device to come in and out. And you have to be able to travel and you have to be able to distinctly do things. But can you warp that area long enough to be able to interact with it? The answer is yes. So theoretically, according to the United States government on release documentation that you can find, by the way, I got this from the guy that used to control the X-Files, so it is 100% true, although they didn't call it the X-Files. And he's a great guy if you ever guys get a chance to Johnny's a great guy if you guys ever get a chance to interview him.
There's Gavin.
But hey, Gavin, what's up, buddy? Anyway, long story short, the government has figured out through quantum physics that it is possible to utilize time travel, but you can't travel in time. So what do they mean by that? Theoretically, we can punch a hole through time and create a window. And we can observe everything in that window, but we can't interact with it.
I need to study up on that stuff.
Theoretically. Now, they found this out because they ran multiple tests that they blacked out thousands of pages on, except for the word whoops, basically, which tells you they screwed up. But it is possible to have these windows and have these interactions. Do I believe it is plausible for things to physically travel through them? The answer is no. I don't believe that. You'd have to have the technology to do so. And in order to have that technology to do so, it would have to physically be visible for a certain period in time. So science says not plausible yet. But you start getting into the theological, maybe it is possible.
I mean, all things are possible. Do you believe in that?
Yes and no. I think all things are plausible, but not necessarily possible. Now, keep in mind, again, when you're dealing with science, some of our biggest accomplishments and our largest mistakes were from those words. All things are plausible, but not possible. And then we made a nuclear bomb.
Yep.
And we stumbled across all of that. Oppenheimer didn't realize he was stumbling across it until the day he stumbled across it. Einstein didn't realize that physics was going to run the way it was until he stumbled across it. So a lot of these times we stumble across this shit and then we connect the dots. Right now, as an example, in Tennessee, they are building one of the largest conductors based off of the black hole theory that in Michigan, tapped into another dimension and pulled out dark matter. So we proved dark matter exists, right?
Yep.
But it can't stay in our universe for very long. So Tennessee picked up that science from Michigan and decided to advance it, and now they're creating a larger machine to create a big hole. Okay, I'm not sure that's smart. Nonetheless, we may very well end up with a real Netflix series here in a little while.
I want to be out. I want to talk on it. No, I'm gonna have to look into that because I've had questions about that too. I've never believed in portals.
I just believe logically, if what everybody says is true, we should be able to pick it up, right? Now, if let's just say on the other end, if one thing could travel through and it has the right device, okay, that's a little harder to detect because I'd have to be in the room that day with a device to detect that and get all of that when it comes through and comes back. So theoretically that could be possible, but you'd still have to be able to be scientifically advanced enough to create that device and travel through those dimensions, because physically, according to our math, anything that is made of matter simply cannot do that without falling apart.
Right. Carl McCowan says, have we really proved dark matter?
Yes. Yeah,
You heard it right there, Carl.
We've actually pulled dark matter from another dimension, proven it exists. However, unfortunately, we've gotten such small content and it's dissolved so quickly, we also realized that dark matter being the opposite of light matter, which is on our side, it cannot exist very long in our dimension. That's the idea of the new Tennessee device, is now that we know we can break into a dimension through smaller devices. And when I mean smaller device, it's about the size of this room. So it's still not small. They want to create one extremely large and punch a bigger hole in so they can see what's over there. And then pull back more dark matter that we could possibly utilize. So I'm not sure that's a good thing. But then again, I don't think CERN is a good thing either. But
yeah. So I want to move on real quick to because I want people to know about your radio show and stuff. And there's a lot of questions coming in. But you guys who don't know Chris, he's got a long-standing radio show, over 20 years, right? I think well over 20 years.
30 this year when we restart again. I was on the air for 19 before I shut down, and then we're going to simul-broadcast with Carl on Born TV once I get this new one up and running.
Right. So I'm going to bring Carl back on because Carl is the producer. He produces your stuff, helps you with, he helped all of us tonight with the stuff. So I'm going to bring him back on. And then I would like to know, after 20 years of being on the radio, having a radio show, what is the most famous topic that your viewers are interested in?
The wackadoos.
The wackadoos. What the hell is a wackadoo? I don't even know what that is.
So my history,
Carl,
guys.
Welcome back in.
So my history, guys. At first, when I was on late night in Ohio, and my job was to be the Howard Stern of the paranormal. So I would bring on the craziest, looniest people I could find and let them tell their stories. So I had people that swore to God they were impregnated by aliens that look like lions. I had psychos that would literally wear tinfoil hats when they were in my actual studio at the time.
Okay, I
had a lot of wackadoos in there. And the wackadoos drew a lot of attention. Eventually, it got to the point to where I could bring in real people. And then that wackadoo thing started to change around before I jumped into the mainstream community. And I got to interview scientists and all the other stuff. But the people that bring in the most, usually the ones that and Jason, I'm in Central Ohio. I'm actually in Mount Gate, Ohio. My show was in Columbus, Ohio, broadcasting Columbus, Mansfield, Marion, and several other areas for years. The new show is going to broadcast through Mansfield and the Marion area. We may get to Columbus eventually. And then it's going to be on Born TV. But the wackadoos got attention. And it's me. If you ever met me, I know that there are other people that claim this. Oh, you're in Summit County. We got to get together and do an investigation then sometime, Jason. I'm down with that. Ask Angelina for my information. That's cool. I didn't know you were in Summit, Ohio. That's Summit County in Ohio. That's pretty cool.
Oh, yeah. You'll definitely have fun investigating with Chris. And bring Joel with you.
Yeah. You're welcome to come on anytime, buddy. But basically, it's just me. I mean, I'm this guy that I've been serious throughout the years. I love teaching. I love going to universities. I love telling people about the paranormal. I love giving you the logic and the explanations. And I could talk about it for years. But I'm a fun-loving guy that just calls down all the bullshit, and I always have been. That's why originally on real radio shows, I was deemed the asshole of the paranormal very early on by a famous radio host. I can't even remember his name now, but he was on a famous radio show, believe it or not. He said, if you ever want to meet a real asshole in the paranormal, talk to Christopher Houston. And I was just tickled to death. Wow. I'm like, yeah, I got marked that. That's cool. And ever since then, I've ran with it. And I've just called people down and said, nope, that's bullshit. This is the way it really is. and get real people on talking about real stories and real truths and real paranormal education, and it just shot off from there. It went wild, and I got thousands of viewers and loved it.
That's crazy. Wow, that's crazy. So, Carl, question for you.
Yeah.
Chris, do you want to introduce Carl?
This is Carl. This is Carl. He's my producer. He works on Born TV. He actually has a lot of shows on there, both political and paranormal related. My show is No BS. No BS is kind of an absurd look at everything. So it doesn't necessarily just cover the paranormal, although I love talking paranormal. It's also a reality look at the stupidity of America right now is a big thing. I talk about it all the time. Everybody's got a conspiracy theory about something. Everybody's got a political view about something. And 90% of the time, if you watch it on Facebook, you're going, holy shit, are these people crazy? So I basically lay it out that way. But we're going to be doing a lot of crazy stuff. I have a cartoon going on the network called Paranormal Pops. I retooled it several times. Makes fun of the paranormal a little bit. Hilarious, kind of a cross between The Simpsons and South Park and a few other things. That's going to be absolutely hilarious. So I encourage you guys to watch that. We've got some science stuff going on, and of course I've got some political views going on there too. But he's got a whole network of stuff that he's working out.
Yeah, Carl, what is it like working with Chris?
It's very interesting.
I know what it's like, but what is it like for you? Yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah, it's very interesting at times. He brings a lot to the network in the paranormal and used to in the politics. And we'll probably be getting back into that later this year. But I met Chris. He was on the Paranormal Pride with Denise Pridemore. After the show, I talked to him and said, "Are you doing a podcast?" And he said, "Yeah, I'm going to get back into it." So me and Chris got hooked up together, and he come up with the name No BS, which is a great name for a podcast. It can cover so much out there.
Yeah.
But Chris has brought the paranormal, the politics, the gardening that he does in there, in the hydroponics
I'm a big
things.
survivalist, guys. So that you know, I am a big survivalist. 90% of my home is wired to solar power and alternative energies.
The real live MacGyver.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
I grow alternative foods. There's a closet behind me that's covered up by that has all survival stuff on it. I have another closet that has survival stuff. I'm the guy you come to when shit hits the fan and everything is gone. And I'm also the Negan of the Walking Dead universe. So that's a whole other story. But I'm also that guy that will walk straight out the door and pop the shot off at the evil one and say, "I shot him in the head because that's the guy that's going to take your stuff. Now follow me."
Exactly.
Yeah. Carl, do you find it if Chris has said something and you disagree with him, do you find it easy to agree to disagree with Chris?
Yes, I do. Me and Chris have disagreed on a few
hundreds of times. Yeah.
Hundreds of times. But I always use this term. I would rather have conversation and not confrontation.
Yes.
In everything.
Yeah.
And you have to look at it this way. Chris got his beliefs on certain things. I have my beliefs on certain things. You know, we learn to meet in the middle. We don't judge each other for what their opinions are out there. So yeah, he's easy to work with.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a patriot. That's why when we first started the show, it was a highly political world, and I'm a patriot. So I don't care what your belief is. I don't care whether you like Donald Trump or Joe Biden. I don't care who you like. What I care about is the country, and a part of being the country is realizing what it is to be an American, and that is that we do meet in the middle ground. We should always be here for each other. During a natural disaster, your family, your friends, your neighbors should come together. This is what it means to be an American. We come together when shit hits the fan, and we, no matter how much we disagree, we find that middle ground and we live. So it's easy enough to disagree with me and still find that middle ground and me understand something. And 90% of the time I learn in that process. That's how I learned in the paranormal.
and I agree with Carl, because I remember when I first got in, and I think when everyone first gets into the paranormal, you have a little bit of I know what I'm doing. I got this. That person's wrong. They don't know what they're
Mhm.
talking about. And I've had those little disagreements with Chris. But like Chris said, Chris will talk. Chris will tell you everything and give you everything available to you, educational wise, whatever. And he is very easy to agree to disagree with. Now, has
Your first
I
5
ever
years,
proven Chris wrong? No. Chris always has me at the end of the thing going, this motherfucker, he's
your
right
I,
again.
I always
You
say
know?
your first 5 years is learning the paranormal. Your
Mhm.
next 5 years is thinking you know everything about the paranormal, and then your
Yeah.
10th year is realizing you didn't know shit at all. Then you spend the next 10 years really educating yourself, and then's when you dig into the truth, because now you're past all the mainstream stuff and you're getting into all this really in-depth stuff, and you're starting to ask those real questions,
Yeah.
those real things that make you think. And then's when the paranormal gets fun, because
Mhm.
now you're digging, you're not just asking the question, hey, is a ghost real? You're asking the question, what is a ghost? Where did it come from? How does it work?
Right.
Is it this? Is it that? Are UFOs real? If UFOs are real, have they been here the whole time? Have they not been here the whole time? Is it something from the government that created itself? Is it not? By the way, I can answer that question, but that's beside the point, because I worked for the government, so I know. But you ask all those questions, so.
Right. Let's take some questions here. We're at the
Mhm.
hour 22-minute mark, so let's take a question. Exploring Jason. If anybody doesn't know Exploring Jason, go follow his page. He's a really good guy. He loves to do history videos, and I love watching Jason's page. And no, guys, Chris does not have a YouTube page. Why, I don't know. But maybe we can say, Chris, get a fucking YouTube page. But Jason's question to you is going back to the Warrens. Do you think Ed and Lorraine Warren were legit demonologists? And what is your opinion on them going to the Conjuring House, Chris? Do you think what they said is made up?
I will twofold this for you. First off, just so that you know, Ed was a great guy, but he was also a big bullshitter, and he had a hell of an ego, and he knew what it meant to make a buck. Okay.
Oh, so a mini Cody.
Lorraine was a wonderful woman. She 100% believed in what she did. She never once claimed herself that she was a demonologist, though you will see her on interviews that claim she is a demonologist, and she never denied it. Again, that's because Lorraine is smart. She knew how to make a buck, and she knew when promotion was promotion. Now, were they demonologists? No. Okay, I'm just going to tell you this. There is no way in the United States of America to become a demonologist. There are no courses. There are no books. There are no nothing. The only place that registers as getting a course as a demonologist is the Catholic Church, and that is they have an ology for everything, so you guys know. So they don't just have demonology, they have angelology. They have specific ologies for every angel, specific ologies for different demons that were angels. They have ologies for everything. So to become a demonologist, you have to learn demonology. The only legitimate course in demonology is from the Catholic Church, and the only way to do that is in Rome. Period. Anybody that claims otherwise, you're full of shit and you're lying. It's just the way it is. I'm sorry. But you can study demons. I mean, that's easy enough to do if you get your hands on the right books. Like I said, I got thousands of pieces of information from everybody just behind me. I don't claim to be a demonologist because there's only one way to get licensed in that. So were they legitimate demonologists? No. Did they believe in what they did? Yes. Was it accurate? I guess that depends on who they helped and who they didn't help, right? If they believed that it was accurate, then it was accurate. Now, what do I believe in? What really happened at the Conjuring House?
Give me 1 second, guys. If you guys could drop me down, I got to go check on my aunt real quick, and then I will be back.
All right.
I'm not going to get into a lot of detail about that for purposes, because I have respect for some of the people that have been at the Conjuring House. But I will tell you it's not exactly what it seems, okay? It's just not. And the history behind it is not exactly what it seems either. Contrary to what's being promoted now and what was promoted then, there's a lot of glitches and loopholes in the Conjuring House that make the fact that it is not actually 100% legitimate in the first place. And I stand behind that. I have the proof of it. I will never utilize it. And I have respect for the people that have filmed there, that continue to film there and so forth. Hey, that's great. That's great. Do your documentaries. I have respect for all of you. Do your shows. But it's not as legitimate as people want to believe, to answer that question. But I do think that Ed and Lorraine believed in what they did. I don't think they deliberately wanted to fool America. I think they ended up in the same process that all of us end up in if you allow it. And that is when fame and fortune and promises and all this other stuff get into you. Your ego and your eyes get this big and you play right along with it.
Yeah.
And when that happens, you become a different person. It's part of the reason I'm
Chris, I got a question for you on that, though. If it wasn't for Ed and Lorraine, how do you think the paranormal would be now on social media and TV?
Well, I think that Zach and everybody else eventually would have picked it up anyway. I think it would have still led to this process. I don't think Ed and Lorraine has anything to do with the modern media the way it is today, though they did start their own way idealism that people still follow, that there are paranormal teams and all this other stuff. Keep in mind that people didn't formulate what a paranormal team really was until that first day they watched Ghost Hunters.
Mm-hmm.
And that first day that they watched Zach and the team that came before them with the college kids and the one that ended up a drug addict and ruining his life. This is what made people think paranormal teams and paranormal gadgets and paranormal this and paranormal that. Ed and Lorraine were the founding fathers of what people believed in exorcism and demons. And they wrote 4 books on it, 5 books on it, and collected all kinds of haunted objects that people still believe are haunted today. By the way, guys, my room is filled full of haunted objects, and not a damn one of them except for one, and you're not going to act up. That is a set of tiki dolls, believe it or not, from Hawaii. That were believed to be cursed and given to me. It actually does work. I have over here, I wish I could show you and take it off the wall. I have over here that was given to me by the priest that actually took part in one of the original plots or the original exorcisms that brought on the story for The Exorcist.
Wow.
So I have his cross. He gave it to me when he passed away. I have a plate from China back here that was given to me by a Chinese ambassador, believe it or not, that believed it was haunted and wanted it out of his home. I have all kinds of haunted objects in here. Never had a problem with any of them except for that damn tiki.
You crack me up, Chris. I love you.
I question on whether to film that because I have invited for years. I've told people, send me your haunted objects. I want to do a study. Send me your haunted objects. People finally started sending them. I got them all over my room. Never had one occurrence. Then that damn tiki came into my home and things started flying off the shelves if I didn't put it the right way and I didn't give it attention. And it would literally knock things out. I had a knife thrown at my head one time, believe it or not, all because this damn tiki was faced the wrong way.
Oh, wow.
And they warned me ahead of time. They told me everything was going to happen. I just didn't believe it.
Wow.
So do you believe when people say, like, when you go to a location, they say, don't take anything back because something bad could happen in your house? Do you believe that?
I've taken things back and nothing's ever happened to me.
Me too.
Bricks. I have bricks. I went to a ghost town that was claimed to be haunted. They said, don't take anything from the coal mine. I got a piece of coal sitting back here. And nothing's ever happened to me. Can I tell you, you can bring things home with you? The answer is yes. I've had a few stragglers that I can't explain coming into my home after an investigation. But that usually dissipates, whether that's negative energy, whatever that is. If it's managed properly, eventually it goes away and you don't have to worry about it anyway. But I've never had anything. I got collector's items from everywhere I went.
Wow. So what would it be that would cause a object to be haunted? For me, I just think it would be a residual haunting.
It is kind of, think of it this way. Everything you're in touch with collects energy. It's all mass. It's all quantum physics. It's all mass that's created. And the more energy that's there, the more energy collects. So let's say you're in a ballroom and all it had was weddings its whole life. Well, if anything exists left of that ballroom, that positive energy is still going to be in it, whether it be a chair, whether it be a table, whether it be a dress. And the same thing applies for personal items and so forth. If I wear a watch that I love my whole life, and I don't get buried with that watch, then a piece of me stays with that watch one way or another. The energy, the positive, the negative, it all stays in those areas. And it takes a long time for that to dissipate because energy doesn't go away. It just multiplies and then it changes back into the same energies it was before. So that's really all that it is.
Yeah, it's crazy because where I live in my aunt's house, and sorry I had to step away. My aunt's not doing too well, but this house is 133 years old. It's historic. It's all the houses here are historical. And my grandmother died here a few years ago. And when I used to live here before, and I live up in the upstairs apartment, my grandmother would yell, Lena, up the staircase. That's what short for Angelina. And now that I'm living here full time, sometimes during those times when she would call my name, I swear I hear her saying Lena to me when I'm out on the top landing here. And I don't think it's like, for me, that's residual because she always would do that. She'd yell up the stairs and say, Lena, Lena, Lena. And it's like, okay. And then when I tell people that, they're like, oh, well, your house is haunted. And I'm like, no, it's not.
I tell people all the time, is it the house that's haunted or is it you? And when I mean that because you take bits and pieces of everybody with you. As an example, my dad goes everywhere with me. And I'll tell you right now, in my worst experiences, even with family or friends that have been around, they will know he's there because all of a sudden, if I'm having that experience and I walk into the other room, they smell stale beer and Pall Mall cigarettes. My dad drank beer his whole life. He drank Bush beer, has a very distinctive smell when it gets stale, and smoked Pall Mall cigarettes. And they'll say, I just smell beer and cigarettes. I'm like, that's Dad. Pay no attention. He's just telling me everything's going to be okay. Because he carries with me. The girl that died in a car accident for years carried with me. Lori's the one that told me she was there, and it explained a lot, but she carried with me the whole time because the memory carries with me. So I'm carrying her with me every single day. And in one way, shape, or form, she's still here. So is he and everybody else. So it's plausible sometimes to run across that. Now, I will tell you, there is a reversal that is always questioned. This house that I live in had a little history, right? The grandmother died in a room that we sleep in now. After she died, her son inherited it. Her son, depressed, hung himself in the basement. Now, I can tell you he's still here. The first week we moved in here, he made it evident he was here in that basement. If I put anything new in that basement, he'd knock it down. He even set something on fire for no reason in the center of the basement. I physically watched it just manifest and burn.
Wow.
And it was all because he didn't like the way I was treating my daughter at the time. We were arguing with each other. Then when I started treating her nice, he loved kids his whole life. It all narrowed down to, okay, well, as long as the family's going to be happy, I'm happy. Wow. And I learned to live with it. But I know he's here because I physically watched something catch on fire for no reason right in the center of the basement.
Yeah. Sometimes I'll see my grandmother, like she literally sat in her chair all day, every day for years. She had a routine. She went to breakfast with my aunt in the morning. Then she came home, she sat there and she watched the news. And sometimes, I don't know if I'm manifesting it, but I see her rocking chair move as if she got up to go to the kitchen at that same time she does all the time to get a drink or feed the dogs. And it's just like, did that just really move? Or is it just me thinking my grandmother would always get up at this time at 6 o'clock, 5 minutes to 6, she'd get up, get her drink to watch the news.
It's a residual activity. The first few weeks after my dad died in the home that he and I stayed in, I moved in a buddy of mine, Mike. Mike slept downstairs in the basement. I slept upstairs. My dad slept in the basement for years. He had a routine at 3 a.m. every morning. He'd get up, he'd go open up a beer, he'd go into the bathroom. Excuse my term when I'd say this, but he'd take a shit and smoke a cigarette. He'd drink his beer. He'd close the door. He'd turn the spigot on for a minute, and he'd go back in and lay down. So here 3 a.m. rolled up, and Mike heard something. He watched the door open up and the bathroom light turn on. He heard the toilet flush. And then he heard the light go off. And he said, Chris, were you downstairs? He came up and tried to wake. Were you just downstairs? I'm like, no. What happened? He said, I saw this. I'm like, it's just Dad taking a shit. You'll be fine.
Yeah. That's what I tell Christina. She's like, I hear something's this, and when she tends to hear things, I'm like, okay, that's about the time that my grandma would have been doing this. That's about the time my grandma would be in the basement doing laundry or yelling up the staircase or something like that. So, because she thought at first it was haunted here, and you know.
And Blossom, to answer your question that I saw come up there, you'd always wondered why energy was around, but you didn't know how to explain it. This is very easy to explain. Quantum physics. Okay. Okay, quantum physics is not easy to explain, but think of it this way.
I was about to say, no, it's not.
Think of it this way. Everything is created through a process, and it all consists down to molecules and matter. Everything is made from molecules that create the matter around you. Your shirt, your skin, this headset, everything we're doing is molecules and matter. On a quantum level, that means everything is connected within this process. Every dimension, every energy, everything is plausibly connected in this process, including the multiple dimensions that flow in front of you. In other words, in quantum physics, there is no such thing as time. Everything flows at the exact same constant measure. The future, the past, the present, other dimensions, and everything are all flowing at once. Therefore, everything that has happened will happen again and has happened before. That means that your energy remains in motion at all given times. Even after you die, just like everything else, energy never stops. So your brain and your energy and everything you were that did exist is still out there and flowing and breaking down until it reabsorbs and starts over again. So you may not be consciously like you are now, but you could still interact with people based off of every emotion and every situation you have had before this. That also means if you're moving back and forth, if your favorite time of day to watch Maury Povich was to turn on the TV and watch Maury Povich, somebody may be in that room, and by God, that TV will turn on.
Chris, stop showing your age.
Seriously, anything that happens could happen. If you wake up like my dad and take a crap at 3 a.m. in the morning, you're going to continue to wake up and take a crap at 3 a.m. in the morning. So hopefully that explains it in a little bit more detail.
So let's go on with another question from Blossom. And Blossom, thank you for being a member. Hello to everybody. Sorry we haven't had time to say hello. This has been a great podcast. But Blossom also goes on to say, how is energy attaching to an inanimate object? I said the word wrong, but...
For the same reason, everything is consistent of matter and motion. Matter creates everything from a brick wall to a doll. And it's designed that way, right? So your emotions are also a part of this, positive and negative and so forth. Just like going back again and talking about the telemarketing room. If everybody's having a negative day in a telemarketing room, computers break down, phones don't work, and so forth. This is because the negativity is affecting all the matter in motion. If you're in a positive room, whether it's religion or whatever, and you're clapping those hands and you believe, everything positive happens. You end up positive, nothing terrible happens, and you go home having a great time. The same thing with objects are the same way. If you love something so much during your life and you carry that on, then you're going a part of that is going to be with that its whole life. A part of you are going to be with that. And it's easy. Once you explain it, it makes sense. But most people just say, nope, that's a ghost. Or it's possessed. Not really.
And what have you taught me over the years? 99% of what you think you've captured, you haven't captured.
99.9%. And 99.9% of everything you think is paranormal has nothing to do with the paranormal. It is 100% logically explainable. And in fact, has been explained way before you even started.
Correct. So Dan Bruca, I hope I said that right, Dan, and welcome to the channel. He says, and so is the matter creating things, or are we?
It's a dual effect. So matter creates everything possible to create more things, but human instinct wants to always advance and create things, right? So the technology we design is of our own benefit, but that board and your cell phone, the electronics in this, the plastic and so forth is all matter related. And without that matter, we wouldn't have been able to build it in the first place. Now, who created the matter? Well, you can debate that all day long. You know, some people say it just happened. Some people say it's God. You make that determination, not me. But ultimately, just like the universe, something had to create this shit.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's true. That's very,
That's
very
right.
true. Jason had some questions about Ohio for you. I know you know Ohio like the back of your hand. So Jason says, "What is your thoughts and opinions on Helltown in Boston Township, Ohio, which is in Summit County, Ohio? Do you think it is haunted?"
No, it's not haunted at all. I've spent many, many times up there. I have a free invite. I have to apply for the county and the sheriff's department to get up there because a lot of that property is owned by people. But Helltown is not. There's nothing haunted about it. Spooky, yes. The history basically involved in that is the county parks took over during a presidential change of events and a mayor and a governor change of events, and they bought out the property and forced everybody out of their homes.
Oh wow.
And it happened almost overnight. So some of these people were physically removed by the military, and they were in the middle of dinners and they were in the middle of meals. So they had to leave everything behind and were told they could come back and get it later. Most of them weren't allowed to come back and get it later. Some of them were. So a lot of the properties now have been overran, knocked down, tore down. Some of the roads are gone, and you can still see some of the other stuff. And it is very creepy, but haunted, no. Now, word of advice if you go to Helltown thinking it's haunted. The locals, including the children, love to scare the shit out of you. So they will put on their nice little satanic worshiping robes and hang out over top of hills and so forth, staring at you and maybe even light a few torches.
Well,
Just so you
Susan
guys
would
are
fit
aware.
right in. Interesting. Carl says, "What's the difference between a hypernova and a supernova?"
That takes entirely too long to explain on this.
Yeah.
So reach out to Chris.
Yeah, if you want to talk about that in more detail, feel free to reach out to me personally. I'll give you my number. We can talk about science in incredible detail. If I don't know it, I will put you in touch with professors that do know it, because that's how I got all my knowledge, by the way, guys. I did not go to some super college. I realized that in order to understand the paranormal, I had to understand everything in the paranormal. So I went on this lifetime journey. Spent time on Indian reservations talking to Indians, spent time with the Jewish community talking to rabbis, spent time with religion and the Catholicism talking to the right people, spent time with Buddhists learning the Buddhism. A wonderful journey of studying all these religions. And when I was done with that, it was time to go to science. So then I talked to all kinds of professors everywhere. And learned everything I could and just absorbed it. Even though some of it was like this.
Yeah.
I
think that's important, because if there's one thing you taught me is, if, for an example, is that what I think is what's in the picture?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm not a photographer, so I can't say 100% that that's what I think it is. So I send my stuff off to photographers.
Uh-huh.
I go beyond paranormal investigators and send it to the professionals. You know, did I hear this in my audio? Is it wrong? Can you explain this particular recorder for me? And I see a lot of paranormal people in the field that don't do that. They just go, nope, that's what it is. Okay, well, are you a doctor? Are you a photographer? Are you a videographer?
Exactly.
How do you know?
And then they'll go back to you and say, well, there's no experts.
But a photographer is an expert. A videographer, you go to school for that shit.
A photographer that's been doing photography for 25 years and you haven't is an expert, you idiot. A doctor that's a psychologist, that's been a psychologist for 40 years when you're not, is an expert in psychology, you dumbass. And all of these people touch place and are professionals that you can utilize if you choose to get those questions in. I mean, that's what I do. I talk to other people. I'm not the all see all know all. I'm smart enough to know that if this doesn't sound right, maybe I should reach out and talk to that psychologist and talk to that quantum physics professor and talk to that person over here, or that structural engineer that works in construction. He's going to know what's in that structure. I'm not going to know I don't know how to build a house. All the way down the rig. Let's talk to people that know what they're doing and have done just that for years, and let them deduce it. Then I can put 2 and 2 together, and I can give you the answers that you deserve. And most people don't do that. You're right. They just jump in and they go, oh, no. And then they want to argue, well, you're no expert. There are no experts. That's the most idiotic response I've ever seen in my life, is saying things like that.
Right. Yeah.
Because there are billions of experts in the paranormal. Billions. Now, whether they really know or not is a whole other story. You got to get into their education. But there are billions of experts in the paranormal.
I mean, I think some people maybe are a little embarrassed to reach out to other people, or maybe their egos are too big. I know when I reach out, I recently, not too long ago, reached out to an expert in moths because I thought I captured something. Somebody told me it was a moth, and I'm like, no, it just doesn't look like that. So I reached out to someone who specializes in moths and said, here's my video, here's this. It was a little embarrassing to say, hey, I'm a paranormal investigator and X, Y, and Z, and da 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 da. You don't have to answer my question. But he did answer my question.
You'd be
said,
surprised.
That is a moth, you know. But why don't more investigators do that? We can't just look inside of the paranormal for the answers. We have to go further for our answers.
People will love you for that. And most people are like, you know, I'm afraid. I don't think they'll do this. You know, when I first started reaching out to university professors, said, hey, I'm fascinated with paranormal, and I just want to know if this is real. Instead of laughing at me, they'd smile and go, great, let's sit down and I can answer that.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then they'd explain their side of things. And then, oh, well, you know what? That makes sense. But what about this? Can't answer that one. You're going to have to go here. But what I can tell you is what I believe at this point. But that's just me. They'll be very upfront about it. And then they love to answer the questions, especially if they're specializing in particular areas. It's like Bigfoot. I was fascinated with Bigfoot, still am. I don't believe it exists. So when some people started to see that I was doing some things on Bigfoot, they would send me pictures, right? and images and stuff. Well, my first instinct was not to go to a Bigfoot specialist. It was to go to a Saiyan specialist. Let's send this to a guy that studies monkeys. And he was very upfront about it. He was like, that's an ape, that's a gorilla, that's bullshit.
Yeah, you got to reach out further. You got, and I try to tell people that, and they're like, "Well, Angelina, you're crazy," and I'm like, "Well, then you know what? You just offended me because you're telling me that everyone I learned from is crazy, you know." And that's something that stuck with me. Like you've always said, Angelina, when in doubt, reach out to the person who would know about that. Reach out to that specialist, and I do that to this very day. You know, I do that. So I think that's very important. Carl says, how is a hyper bigger than a super? I have no clue what he's even talking about.
Again, it's
Explain
an excellent question because you're talking about physics and quantum physics.
Yeah.
And you're talking about atoms and in motion. Carl, in order to explain this as a longer, detailed situation, so there's two ways we can do this. I'd be more than glad to get you on my show. We can discuss science for 2 hours and break down things, and I'll bring in a couple of scientists. Or just reach out to me. I'll give you my personal number. We'll talk about it a little bit, and then I'll put you in connection with some of the physicists that I have spoken to throughout the years, and then they can get you into more detail on the difference between hyper and super and how these things are reactive and so forth. Because it's really hard to explain all of this without taking 2 or 3 hours to break it down. And some of it is whoop. Some of it, even when they explain it, is like, okay, you're going to have to dumb this down because you are talking to Homer Simpson here.
I remember sometimes walking away from Chris saying, what the fuck is he talking about? And then having to go research because I was so new into it, like, you know, but yeah, you have to ask more questions. You have to be more educated, and not just be educated in the paranormal and science. You have to be educated in many things, many things when you're doing this. And I thank you and everyone that brought me up and taught me it's okay to reach out. And it's okay to ask questions and to get those correct answers. You know, I still say to this day, I don't believe I've caught anything paranormal. I've questioned some things and I still question things, but I don't really think I've caught anything that I can say is paranormal. And there was one thing at Post Town, but I didn't catch that. It was physical, and I still questioned, did I see these people? What the fuck is going on? But yeah, reach out, ask questions, reach out to the professionals. If you don't know if that was a moth, was it an orb? What is it? I don't deal with the orbs, but it's sad when people make fun of you for reaching out and say, what do you call the photographer for? I'm telling you what it is. Well, you're not a fucking photographer.
Right.
You can't tell me what it is.
The biggest issue is, and I will say this over and over and over again, is people get into it because they see the TV shows and then they spend 4 or 5 years and they think they're God and they think they know. and they think they know everything, and then they treat the people like me and other people that have been in it for I'm going on almost 35 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
And they go, well, you don't know anything. Well, I'm going to prove you wrong. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And it annoyed me at first, but after a while, the mainstream, I just laugh at it because it's like, come on, man, you got like 5 years, and then they'll lie their way out of it and say they have 10 or 15 or 20, and they'll give you all kinds of big bullshit statements. But at the end of the day, if I were to challenge any of them, and I'll put this challenge on, I've done it on Carl's show, I'll do it on your show. I'll put this challenge out. If you think you know so much, debate it with me. Come on my show and debate it. We will do it live, and I will get you a hell of an audience. But you better know what you're talking about, because if you don't, I'm going to blow the shit out of you.
Oh, he will. He will.
He will.
He will. He will. Thank you, Blossom, for that nice comment. It's very important to ask questions, and it's very important to ask questions. You know, it just very is. And I learned that in the very beginning, you know, like I was kind of quiet when I first got into it. But the questions were there, and the questions are there. And I think the questions should always be there, no matter how long you're investigating the paranormal.
The answers are there. 99% of everything all of you do has already been answered. People just don't take the time to do the research and look for it. It's all been solved. It's all been done. It's that 1% that's left where you end up with the Jay Prathers. By the way, Jay Prather is doing a psychological experiment I encourage everybody to look at. I invested in it, by the way, gave him $3,000 or $4,000 out of the kindness of my own heart because I believe in it.
Oh, wow.
He's agreed to pay it back, but I'm really not concerned with that. I just love science. And these are the things we need to do. We need to take it a step further. We need to look at all these old studies. We need to look at all this stuff, and we need to go, you know what? We need to fill in those gaps. We need to really put some science in here. And we need to not be afraid to find out at the end of that, well, shit, I was all wrong. Or, holy crap, I just poked a door and the door opened up and now I have my answers. Because that's what real investigation is, what real science is. It's not running around with sage and casting out demons and using holy water and going, I saw that ghost. I saw it. I know I heard it. I'm going to make a video on it. It's real science and real education and really working at it. It's really diving in. It's really getting it to the next level. It's being that guy that may be the next Elon Musk of the paranormal. Because if you answer one of those questions, baby, you got a Pulitzer Prize.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Hey, let me get that Pulitzer Prize. It's okay, Carl. You're good, Carl. I think that you and Carl would have very interesting conversation. Carl, I don't know him, but he seems very intelligent.
You're perfectly fine, Carl. You asked some really intelligent questions. It's just hard to explain on a podcast. But science is my passion, so I'll be more glad to sit down with you at any point in time and talk about it. In fact, look me up on Facebook.
We get lucky, huh, Susan? We do really get some great questions from our viewers.
We do. Yeah.
And it's like, oh, okay, I can't wait to see them answer that. It's really, really good. So if anyone has any more questions, put them in the comments. We got about 8 more minutes before we end the show. And Susan, do you have any questions hearing everything, learning about Chris, everything you've heard me talk to you about Chris?
No. It's just been fascinating having you on, Chris. Definitely.
It's always fascinating. It's fascinating to investigate with him too.
We actually do a paranormal debate on Carl's network, believe it or not. I've been on several of them. I think Carl will be able to tell you the date and time, but you guys are welcome to come on, or anybody else is welcome to come on too for that debate. I pop in every now and then. The other hosts are always in and out. But we have some fascinating topics when we're all on that we talk about, especially when it comes to the paranormal.
So what Carl will have to do is inbox me and messenger all the links, the show links, so that I can add them to the description here on the YouTube. And people can go, watch and everything, because I don't have all that. I don't know what happened, why I didn't put it in there. I usually do, but I'm going to need all that information. So,
right.
Look. Oh, hello, Chris. Hello, Carol.
Hi, Christopher Pittman. Yeah.
Hello, Christopher Pittman.
Christopher Pittman. Chris Pittman is one of my friends. Got to know him through one of my mentors, Ron Cross, actually. which is the gentleman that I was mentioning earlier that I didn't mention his name, but he's the guy that worked with EVP for a number of years and Faraday cages and helped consult for several people and so forth. So Chris Pittman's a great guy.
Welcome in, Chris. So, exploring with Jason, he just put a question in. Chris, what is your thoughts about the phenomena where something is there but not there?
Where something is there but not there. Are you talking about through the shadow in the back of your eye, or feelings, or situations like that? Residual activity and psychic ability connected to quantum physics is a complicated subject, but a plausible subject. As an example, the reason I walk through rooms and sometimes I work with Jill or another psychic medium is not because I claim to be psychic, but because you can pick up on specific things. We had a hospital from a guy that Ronnie that nobody had been in yet. And he was going to do a TV show with somebody the week before, but he was like, you know what? I want Shannon and Joel and Chris to come through this first. So the first thing I said is, he's like, you want the tour? And I'm like, I don't want the tour. I don't want to know anything about it. I'm going to walk through the building. You do the tour, and then I'm going to ask you questions later. So we walk up through the first wing. I don't get anything. We get to the second wing, and Jill and I stop for a minute right in front of this bathroom that was in a receptionist area. And I just stopped for a minute, and I looked at her and I said, somebody died there. And she said, yep, I feel that. Then we walk up to the third floor, and I get halfway through this hallway, and the word 307 kept popping in. And then I got a terrible headache and almost hit the ground. And the closer I got to the end of the hallway and into the room, it was a splitting headache just for no reason. And Jill had to help me out. And once we got down the hallway and came back, it was gone. And I looked at him and said, does 307 mean anything? Anything at all? And he said, not right off the bat. And I said, the very last room on your third floor, did somebody die there? He said, yeah, somebody actually had a concussion and died there. I'm like, is that room 307? You should look that up. Turns out that was room 307, and a young girl had hit her head against that wall until she died because she had a mental disturbance. I didn't know any of that. And then later on, when we get back down to the receptionist area, and this lady's name came into my head when she died in that bathroom. He explains there's a nurse that died in the bathroom of a heart attack. Her name was Sandy, and he said her name was very specific. Does anybody know their name? And me and Jill said Sandy, and he's like, how did you guys know that? Because it flashed into my head, and I knew she died in that room. I don't know why. It was just there. So it's very easy for all of this to connect, and you not have psychic abilities because everybody has those abilities. It's all connected to quantum physics and so forth. So if you pick up on the energy, you might be right. You just have to make sure that you connect the dots properly. Mm-hmm. And that's why you should always go in not assuming anything. Because if the science can't explain it, sometimes your instincts just pick it up and it's there.
Yeah, I totally believe that, because before we were in a wartologist ghost hunt, and before we got there, someone asked us to stop at someone's house to see if it was haunted. I'm like, that's not what my team does. We don't go in to see if things are haunted. But we appeased them, and we stopped at the house. And the weirdest thing, I walked past the bathroom, and then I turned around, and I said, did somebody have a heart attack in here? And the guy starts going, oh my God, my dad died in there. He was he had a heart attack in the toilet. Nobody knew, and that's where we found him. All of a sudden, they're like, you're psychic. You got abilities. Can you go down in our basement? I'm like, I'm not psychic. I don't have abilities. I don't know how I knew that, but it was just a feeling of sorrow that came over me. My chest was hurting. And to me, that's not paranormal. And a lot of people are like, no, Angelina, that's paranormal. I'm like, no, it's not. It's probably intuition. I don't know what it is, but I understand totally how that can happen. And I don't consider that paranormal. And am I wrong for not considering that paranormal, or saying I don't have abilities?
It's a natural skill that everybody has. It's kind of like deja vu and so forth. Yes, you can tap into it. Everybody has psychic ability. Everybody. It's just how, what, when, and where. So walking into a place that has high energy and so forth, you can utilize that as long as you understand that it's just normal. Okay. It's just another part of life. And it can be rough sometimes. Sometimes you'll feel like you're having a heart attack or a headache or a migraine. You might have weird smells that show up for no reason, weird sounds that show up for no reason. It's really cool if you can actually hear somebody talking to you, but then usually everybody else can hear that too.
Yeah. I just remember, like, I had to
Never
go.
listen
I had
to
to
the
leave.
voices in your head, people.
No.
I listen to them if they say go get some ice cream from the store. I'm like, okay, I'm on the way. That's why we got the devil and the angel, But I thank you for all the subscribers and members for watching. You guys have been great. We're at the 2-hour mark, and unfortunately, I got to cut it short tonight because my aunt is not feeling well, and I don't want to put the business out there. But is there anything you would like to say, Chris or Carl? And I know people are saying they would love for you to have a YouTube channel. And I still, 7 years later, wonder, why doesn't Chris have a YouTube channel?
Y'all know how to produce one. Get a hold of me and we'll work together and we'll get a YouTube channel going. My biggest problem with not having a YouTube channel is I'm the market guy, right? I can tell you how to promote the damn thing. But when it comes to putting the channel together and actually getting the content and so forth, I have to have a guide. I have to have a producer. I have to have somebody tell me how to do it. Otherwise, I'm just rambling on for hours and nonsense. Even Carl's got to tell me sometimes, hey, man, you need to cut that down a little bit.
Maybe even just get a YouTube channel to stream these podcasts.
Right. We used to have a YouTube channel. But I got tired of fighting YouTube.
Yeah, I'm learning YouTube because I'm a crossover from TikTok, and I'm learning the different things about YouTube and everything. But I'm learning too that it is a really good platform. Not so much for the paranormal because real people don't, whatever. But I have to agree with our guest. Hello, Rawside Paranormal. You should.
I think it would do really good with some of my wackadoo science. I mean, the EMF gun, the blowing things up. I think it would probably get an audience there because people would laugh about it.
Even something like this, like, Susan and I, we're streaming this to our YouTube. So when you're doing your podcast or you're doing an interview with somebody or you're doing your political stuff, just open a YouTube page and stream it, even if it's just all live videos.
Some of what I do on my podcast for political, I think YouTube would cut me off.
They would. Believe me, I know.
You just gotta watch how you say things, like you gotta say essay and then art and unalived, and you just gotta watch what you say. But I've said some things on YouTube and have not had any issues. I'm very blunt and forward in my videos on YouTube. But I just think it would be a good idea. Sometimes it's hard to catch you when you're live. And it would be nice to have another platform. Exactly. Yeah, therefore, you need a YouTube.
I want to be regular, but unfortunately, I had some health conditions in the past, month and a half, 2 months, Carl, that I had to resolve myself. So, but I try to do roughly about right now, every Sunday between 6 p.m. my time to 6 to 9, 6 to 8, somewhere around there. We start off
6 to 8,
and we run 2 hours on Sunday from 6 to 8, and that's variable. But there's a lot of things that I'm doing right now that I just have to finish up. That's going to change that. Like I said, the cartoons, some of the lives. We actually do have some political stuff going on right now where there'll be some live interviews that are going to be exclusive on Born TV from some fairly well names, including hopefully Mr. Vance when he gets back here in Ohio, because we have a lunch date.
Oh, wow.
And, a couple other things. So, a lot of people don't know about me is I'm very big on the political market, primarily because I worked with the Department of Defense for almost 23 years on and off. I'm a contractor now and just signed a exclusive contract again to reinitiate my badge for contracting through the FBI this time, I think. But nonetheless, I have a riot gun and a badge and the whole 9 yards. So a lot of people don't know I actually work behind the scenes of the government. And as that, I've seen this whole rat race of crazy stuff. And I get called down from time to time. Ask Carl, we've been shut off once or twice for some of the things I'm not supposed to.
Yeah, we have.
But it's a road where I'm very avid about some of this stuff because there are some things you've been lied about, lied to on, and there are some things that's just complete and utter bullshit that people are making up along the way because they don't understand that social media is manipulated by a dozen countries right now, and you're being fed a bunch of crap.
This is why you need to have a YouTube channel and link all your lives to it.
Well, that's
You
one
don't
reason why we use Rumble. We got great views on Rumble.
I have to look into that.
Mm-hmm.
I have to look. I know I've watched a couple of your shows on there, but I don't know too much about the platform or anything. So I'll definitely have to look into that.
You'll love it better than YouTube. Because as soon
gosh.
as you sign up on your Rumble account, you monetize it immediately.
Oh, wow. So I don't have to fight to get 1,000 subscribers.
Exactly.
Wow.
You're gonna get pennies every time somebody views it. If they put comments in like we got going over here right now, it adds up more pennies. You do enough shows, the pennies add up.
Wow. I'll have to look into that, Susan, because
right now it pays about half of my StreamYard a month.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
On Rumble.
That would be good because it's like $50 a month.
I know.
It doesn't seem like a lot, but it's a lot.
Hey, you can do a lot with it.
That's cheap, guys. The first time that I went on, I went self-broadcast with BBS. I was spending $95.
That's the first show I was on with you, BBS.
Yep. I was spending $95 a month, and I still love the guys at BBS. They're awesome. If you want somebody to do everything for you, go to BBS. They're awesome people. But I had to learn how to monetize on my own. I did radio ads, and eventually I overpaid that. I think I was getting paid $290 a month, so I was paying off BBS and advertising for BBS, so they were giving me free perks. But at the beginning, I was at $100 a month to self-publish, and that didn't count putting my rebroadcasts on AM radio so that I could get picked up again. So I spent a good $600 a month throwing my shit all over AM radio stations.
Ross-Side Paranormal said, I don't make a dime. But you will, Ross-Side, you will. So we were supposed to be on a podcast with Ross-Side Paranormal, but my aunt took ill. And Laura's here right now. And Laura, you need to have Chris on your show. You really need to have Chris on your show. Any of the podcasters that are watching, you need to have Chris on your show. Trust me, you need to have him. I noticed too, like a lot of podcasters are afraid if they're small to ask people bigger than them or more who have more viewers or subscribers to be on their show. And I say, don't be afraid. Just ask. I've seen Susan ask big. I'm like, how the fuck did you get that person? She goes, I asked. And it's like, wow, and Chris is one of those people who he doesn't care if you have one person or 50,000 people. He will be on your show for you.
When I started off, I had one viewer when I started off. I had one viewer on my radio show. I still don't pay attention to podcasts. Carl has to tell me who's watching and who hasn't. I don't pay attention to any of these. I just don't care. I do it for fun. And when I started my radio show, guys, I asked, right? And I didn't get there overnight, but eventually my radio show had, like I said, the lead for the teaching in demonology from Rome. Jason Hawes was on there. Grant Wilson was on there. Zach Baggins was on there at one point. I had everybody famous in the world you could think of getting on there. Ryan Reynolds even popped in for one of my shows. And I didn't even ask him. He just popped in and said, hi, Ryan Reynolds. I'm like, shit, I love Ryan Reynolds. This is awesome. This is the shit. And then it just disappeared. But
that's why I was shocked that you asked me to be on your show. I'm like, he's got all these big people. I just live in a haunted location. I'm nobody. And when he asked me, I remembered I cried. Because my very first podcast and interview was with Chris Houston 7 years ago. And he did it right from my apartment in Post Town. And I was like, wow, he's asking me.
My idea with it was it doesn't matter whether you're famous, whether you weren't famous. What mattered was your story and getting it out there and talking about the paranormal and really educating people. And I didn't care who you were, and I still don't care who you are. Big, small, who gives a crap? Just tell me your story. I'm just a little bit more blunt these days. I'm also that guy that's, if you're that smart ass that wants to cause all that drama on all these other places, I may not mention you, but by God, if you really want a real debate and you think you're smart enough, come on my show and I'll beat the shit out of you and we'll find out who's smarter.
I miss watching you and Gavin together. I miss watching that. You guys get into some pretty good discussions, and I used to learn a lot just listening to you guys. Like, they don't know I learned that from them, but I sure as hell did. So.
Gavin and I are kind of funny. We when you get us both in a room, we can be kind of just a hilarious show. I hate to say that, but we're kind of a unique group. So he's a great guy, though. He's doing a lot of work. I helped produce a couple of shows for him that are hopefully kicking off, and he just got his film degree, so he's opened up doors there, and I'm glad to see he's doing that. And he's working really, really hard to change his image, because he had an image for a long time of Gavin Kelly, the smartass drama queen, and he's really working hard to get out of that. And I'm glad to see that. I'm proud of him. He's done a lot of work.
Yeah, Gavin's a great guy. Gavin, like you, has always been there for me when I needed to speak about something in the paranormal, or even just something in life that's bothering me. You know, it doesn't even necessarily have to be about the paranormal. So it's kind of like, you guys aren't just people who taught me. You guys are my friends too, and that's what I like about the group of people that I still associate with and trust. Like, there hasn't been anyone that I've trusted since you guys until Susan came along. It's very hard to trust people in this field. So I hold my friendship with you guys tight, and it's something that I will never, ever let go of. And sometimes when I'm out there investigating, I'm thinking, are they watching my videos? Did I do anything to disappoint them? Are they going to call me and say, Angelina, you know better than that? You know, but... And there's been times a couple of you have, and I'm like, oh, you know what? You're right. I that was a mistake. I shouldn't have done that. Or, you know, so I just want to tell you that I appreciate you, and I've appreciated you since you first took me under your wing, and you continue to carry me under your wing. And I think you're an amazing person, and I wouldn't change anything about you for the world, Chris. I love you to death. I
appreciate that.
Yeah, definitely. It's been amazing. It's been amazing meeting both of you as well.
Yeah. Wait till you investigate with them.
I know. I can't wait. Can't wait.
If you think I'm bad about stopping and debunking stuff, Chris does it way longer than I do. He will go, oh, you know, I got made fun of because I put the K2 meters up on the walls at the Mayflower building in Penhurst. And people are like, what are you, retarded? What are you doing? No, I want to see if there's anything in the walls that's going to set off that K2 meter, because I remember when you made me do that, Chris, at Post Town with the ghost meter on the ground, and then with the K2 meters. So to me, I'm like, okay, you want to make fun of me? Then you don't know what the fuck you're doing. You don't know what you're doing. It beeped off. Oh, there's a ghost standing next to me, you know, like, so I'm always going to be grateful to you and the others that I've mentioned. And I'm hoping to soon have a podcast with everybody that taught me everything that I know and still learn to this day, and have you guys all on together. So stay tuned, because I'm trying to get everybody together. Maybe you can reach out to Joel for me and let him know that I'm trying to bring everybody on.
I'm sure he'll be able to make a little bit of time. He's doing his own thing these days, but he and I, we kind of miss being around each other. We haven't spent much time. It's been about 6 months, 7 months since we even got together with each other. But
I think about Joel every time I use my laser grid, because boy, that laser grid is so fucking powerful. It goes all the way to the fucking moon.
I know these guys don't know, but Joel is the creator of Nikam camera action cameras. We created the first extremely strong laser grid, meaning so strong that we had to physically put a warning on it telling you, do not shoot this in the sky.
And I did.
If you do, you can take a plane down. So Joel created all of that. All I did was help promote it. He's a brilliant scientist. He has since kind of moved on a little bit because he's running his own business, but he still likes to tinker. Unfortunately, the reason that we moved on with all that was the paranormal drama and all the other stuff that happened. It's hard to promote the world's best action camera, night vision and spectrum vision, and the world's greatest laser grid when you've got thousands of people attacking you that don't even know you every day. And Then when I went on television to boot and did my first interview and then got invited in to do several other shows for 10, 15-minute slots, that's why I don't brag about it. I mean, come on, it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes. You're nobody. You got asked to do it. You did it. Why not? Right? Yeah. Then people were ripping me apart and trying to find out a way to rip him apart. So we kind of said, you know what? We're just going to do our thing and hang out with our people. And I'm going to keep my mouth shut. And if people ask me to do shows, I'll do the shows. But this drama world and this mainstream world is just, I'll go back to doing the interviews and doing the teaching and spending time at universities and filming in the background. And if a TV show asks me to be on, I'll be on. But it was just too much crap, just way too much crap. It didn't matter what you did right. By God, there were 25 people telling you did it wrong.
Yeah.
And then one wackadoo in the bunch that might as well have been in a mental hospital.
Wackadoo. I love that word. Wackadoo. I've never heard that before. Wackadoo. We just call it fucking crazy.
It's the hillbilly in me. It's the hillbilly. One of these days you got to ask Carl about me and my whole show asking for hillbilly reparations.
Yeah.
What?
Oh yeah.
I got lost on there. Carl, any last words from you, Carl, before we end this podcast this evening?
No, thank you for having me on here and with Chris and everything. But everybody can check us out on the Billerites Network on Facebook or Born TV at Rumble.
And Carl, one more time, what is your role with Chris? Because
my role?
What you do can help others.
Right. I produce his show. I'm in the background when his show is live, like I was earlier tonight, putting stars up so she would see the questions over on the side.
Oh, that was you.
But
okay.
I produce. Oh, yeah. I did that, and I put all the videos, and if he needs something looked up, I can open another tab and share it up on the screen for him while he's talking. So I produce all our shows on the network. I'm the host of Paranormal Nation Radio on Tuesday nights at 5 p.m. Central, and the Conservative View I'm on Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. Central.
Send me those links, Carl. Send me those links.
I will.
So I can add
I'll
everything.
send you everything.
If you tune into No BS, you get to see the dancing kitties.
Right.
Yeah, send me everything. That's what we need, Susan. We need a producer.
Okay. Well, I've got your StreamYard, so anytime you need me, you send me a message. I can set in the back.
Yeah, I'm just going to leave you on there.
I'm going to show you something. If I produce your show, I'm going to help your show. You're going to see all this on our network starting next week. You see this photo?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's Chris when he wakes up in the morning.
Right. This is a print of an airbrushed canvas from an artist that I met in Paragon. He gave me a whole bunch of different prints that we're going to be giving away on the shows.
Oh, wow.
So these are 18 by 21.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but these were all airbrushed on canvas and they're photo prints. It's high quality and they're signed by the artist.
That's awesome.
Wow.
So
yeah, make sure you send me all those links because you know me, Chris. I'll promote it out. I'll push everything out.
Right.
But it's hard to find when Chris is live because when he decides to go live, at the last minute, it's like, okay, I'm either in bed, I'm taking a shit, I'm out for the day, I don't know, so Chris needs a better schedule.
Yeah, I do need a better schedule. I need to promote a little bit better and get back into it a little bit. It's just
Angelina and Susan, you just send me messages when your shows are, and I can pop in the background there and help. Because what's really cool about having somebody else in the background with access to it, say Angelina's internet goes out and she's got a guest on there. I can keep the show going. You see what I'm saying? It just doesn't shut off and stuff. So there's a lot of advantages.
I'm not taking you off as a co-host. You're on my StreamYard.
That actually
your
happened
seat
to
is
me
there.
once. That happened to me once that I absolutely lost internet, and then the whole show went.
Yeah, and see, with me having as a team member on here, I'm down there, so I've got the StreamYard. If either one of you go off, I've still got it going. You see what I'm
Gotcha.
saying?
Yeah.
And all you got to do is on the team member thing. So go in there and see what access I have to it, right? Because I don't have a button up here to start it or shut it off.
Oh, okay. So we instead of making you a co-host, we'd have to make you an admin
Yeah.
so that you can
well,
have all
team
that
member,
access.
you can go to team member and give everything. But either way you want to do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I have
No, I think-
StreamYard on 5 different computers. So
Y'all
I'm
should
never
come-
without
Yeah,
anything.
Y'all should
For
come
me-
on with my show sometime as well. And it's
Yeah.
my show's a laugh riot sometimes. I got all kinds of crazy little things that pop up on the screen, and I got all kinds of noises that I put in the background sometimes, clapping, laughter, fart noises. I
see,
do
that's-
pretty wild shit.
That's what I want to do. Like when I'm interviewing these paranormal investigators and these teams, I want to put some of their clips up from some of their videos, and it's hard for me to manage to do that and
Exactly.
not
And
and
talk
just
at the same
not
time.
talk
Yeah.
at the same time and
'Cause you
keep a
gotta
nice
go.
clean stream.
Because you got to go in and you got to go to present and you got to bring it in and you got to press play.
And if you don't have it queued up, you're screwed.
Yeah.
Like, but I
Right.
want to be able to show some of the people's investigations. Like tonight, I wanted to show a little bit of Chris on the Discovery Channel and his interview and some other things. I wanted to share a video of what happened to me at OSR when Chris and Jill tricked me to go walk somewhere. And Angelina couldn't walk back by herself. I was fucking frightened in my boots. But I wanted to share that, but it's hard. It's hard. So I appreciate you giving us the offer. And I'm going, when we get off here, to change it. And I'm going to keep you on as an admin because I know that I could use the help. And I have Susan, and I'm like, I know you're my co-host, but you're in charge of all the buttons because I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. And then when I'm a co-host on her show, I just sit there and do nothing. I don't touch buttons.
It's easy to operate. It's easy to operate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate it, Carl. I do. And I was like, I'm not going to have Carl just sitting there in the background. He's part of Chris's team. So let's bring him on up and see what does Carl do.
I appreciate it.
And then I kind of, when I came on, I heard you and Susan talking and stuff like that. So whatever help that I can give Susan as a friend and use through other people to help her, because this is something she really wants to do, the podcast thing, and it was good to see that you guys were talking and everything. So I appreciate it, Cara, and I thank you for being on. And Chris, I thank you for being on. I love you to death, man. I'll never stop loving you. I miss you. Me and Christina miss all of you guys. Stuff done. See, I see everything blinking out right now. And I'm like, what the
there
hell's
we
going
go.
on?
There we
Everything
go.
went dead for a minute.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, I don't.
That may be a cue.
We need a producer, Susan.
Yeah.
Chris, we're gonna borrow
I was
Carl
sitting up here in
sometime.
the corner going, what the hell is going on? Everybody's going
I don't know what
Everything went
happened.
dead.
I
Jumped
didn't
around all
touch
over the place.
anything. I didn't touch anything.
Grandma, are you here?
It's that damn tiki doll.
There we go. Tiki doll.
All right. So, any last words from Carl and Chris before we let you guys go? I'm not even gonna do an end to the video. I'm gonna say goodbye to all our members. Goodbye to all our subscribers, my paranormal soldiers. I love you all. I have a video coming soon. A lot of you are giving me shit that I'm not putting them out fast enough, but when I have to research, sometimes it takes days, sometimes it takes weeks, so I get my facts straight and I get my videos out done so they're not questioned. But I have something coming out soon, so.
Carl, are we broadcasting on No BS as well? Right now, are we simulcasting?
We're on the Bill of Rights Network and on Rumble.
Okay, so we are simulcasting.
Yeah.
I will do my little thing and then hand it back over to them. Guys, as usual, you've been on a simulcast this time for No BS. Next week, we actually are going to have a individual on, and we're going to talk a little politics this time around. We're actually going to discuss a little bit about the commonalities and the discussions revolving around birth control, believe it or not, and how it's affected politics around the United States right now. So don't be afraid to tune in for that. And as I always say at the end of every show, enjoy your life, have a great time, and we'll see you next week.
I love when he does that. See, we gotta do stuff like that. Susan,
we
any
do.
last words before we dip out? My last words are love, peace, and hair grease, my paranormal soldiers.
Yes, I see everybody next week.
Next week. What are we doing? Oh, next week. Yes, next week we have Shannon on, Chris. I have Shannon, Chris, next week.
Mm-hmm.
Sweet.
Yes. I've done Shannon and her team, but now I'm doing just Shannon because Shannon is also instrumental in someone I consider a mentor, and I
have to do the Beavis and Butthead moment. You're gonna do shit.
I call her Rack City. Everybody will find out next week why I call her Rack City. But thank you guys for all being here. Thank you, Susan, again for co-hosting.
When you interview Shannon next week, ask her if she remembers the first time that she met me in the paranormal world, because it's absolutely hilarious.
Okay.
And it's hilarious if she remembers it. I will never forget that Southern accent and that cuss word that came out.
It took me the longest time to understand Shannon because her accent was so heavy, but I get her. I understand her. Just like Joel, I think Joel and I started into the field at the same time. So I would love to see where Joel is now, 7 years later, because I believe we started around the same time, Joel and I, into the So reach out to me. He's a hard guy to get a hold of. And Chris, ask him, will he be on the show? If he has time. I can even change the day. It doesn't matter whenever he can be on, but I want to have all of you guys on at one time. So other than that, guys, thanks for watching. Give a big wave. Carl, Chris, Susan, say goodbye, say all your stuff.